Um, Okay, good evening, everyone. This is the April 9, 2024 meeting of the Easton Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is John Curran. I am the Vice Chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Chair Ryan Cook to be available later, but we're going to get started with this evening's business. Before I do that, let me just remind everyone, if you don't already know based on what I said earlier, that this meeting is being recorded. For this hearing, the members that are going to be sitting on this one are, from my left, Ed Watson, to his right, Ronald Hanberger, and then to my immediate left, Jeremy Kay. Now, one thing I guess we need to probably just improvise here is that the gentleman who was the clerk for the board has resigned. At some point, we're going to have to nominate a new clerk. But for the purposes of this first hearing, which is a special permit being presented by Fitzsimmons Development Corporation, Jeremy, do you think you can read the application into the record?
Is that this?
Yes.
Yes.
Notice and the comments.
And just if I didn't make this clear, the members that will be sitting on this and deciding it are Mr. Watson, Mr. Hanberger, Mr. Kay, and myself.
Right.
Okay, so if you're ready, Jeremy, why don't you read the application into the record?
The Easton Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, April 9, 2024 at 6:35 p.m. at the Easton Town Hall, Colleen Corona Boardroom, 136 Elm Street, Easton, on the following petition. Special permit, Fitzsimmons Development Corporation located at 159 Washington Street, Easton, Assessors Map 9U, Lot 8, for a special permit pursuant to Easton Code Book, Chapter 235, Zoning, Section 235-56 and Section 235-25A, subsection 3, to voluntarily demolish the existing structure and construct a duplex home on the property. This notice is also available at masspublicnotices.org. Easton Board of Appeals, Ryan Cook, Chair.
No, the comments, yeah.
The comments here. Comments.
Affordable housing.
Affordable Housing Trust, not applicable. Board of Health, recommended. Building Department, recommended. DPW, no comment. Environmental Planner, not applicable. Fire Department, complete. Historical Commission, complete. Planning and Zoning Board, recommended. Police Department, recommended. Water Division, no comment. Historical Commission comments. At March 13, 2024 public meeting, the Historical Commission determined the structure at 159 Washington Street to be not historically significant under Easton's Chapter 114 Demolition Review Bylaw. The Commission encouraged the applicant to build the proposed replacement two-story family residential structure should special permit be granted in accordance with the plans, elevations, and specifications submitted. Environmental Planner comment, if the alteration of the site is more than 1 acre, SWPPP is required during the public hearing process. Result not applicable. Did I get all that?
Yep, I think we're all set. Is Mr. Fitzsimmons here? Sir, if you would, could you take a seat by the microphone? Please state your full name and address into the record, and then you can begin your presentation.
My name is Christopher Fitzsimons. I'm a resident of 28 Blackbrook Road in Easton. I bought that property about 7 or 8 years ago with the intention of renovating it. I got a building permit from the town for the exact same structure that I'm proposing right now. The building permit was approved. When we started to do the demolition, a lot of structural things showed up that weren't expected. The foundation was crumbling. There was no footings under the existing foundation. The old stone walls pretty much caved in on themselves when we started to take the addition off the back of it down. We stopped demolition then and talked to the Historical Commission. They said they wanted to do a historical review of the property. They did that. They found that it was not historically significant. And then we started the process then. We want to tear down the rest of the property. Right now there's a quarter of a foundation standing up and a couple of walls. That's where we stopped the demolition when we realized how much more work was needed on the property. I'll put the application in. You guys have all the details for the existing, or for the new structure. It's the exact same as the one that was already approved by the building department. The only difference is instead of keeping the old rubble stone foundation, we're taking that out and putting all new foundation. So it's all new construction instead of leaving the old rubble foundation there. So I'm asking for approval for demolition of the remaining section of the building and to build the structure that I had submitted the plans for.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add at the moment?
No.
Okay. Now, at this point, since the applicant's completed his presentation, we can open it up to the public now if they have any comments. I know there's a lot of people here tonight, excuse me. Is anybody here for the hearing for this property at 159 Washington Street? How many people are outside there? Okay. Okay, all right. Yeah, so now, at this point, does anybody on the board have any questions that they'd like to pose to the applicant?
So this was approved, the exact same structure to put an addition on. Now you've discovered that the existing structure is no longer structurally capable. So you want to take that down, but basically put up the same house,
Yes,
same footprint,
it's
same setbacks.
Exactly, nothing. The only thing that changes is instead on the plans, instead of keeping the portion of the existing foundation, we're going to pour a new foundation, but everything else is the exact same. Everything's identical.
Okay, that's my only question. Thank you.
Mr. Hamburger?
I noticed it's gonna be a duplex. Is it gonna be owner occupied, owner owned, or used as a condominium?
So my plan is to keep one unit and sell one unit. The first unit I want to keep it for my kids. My son's currently serving in the Marines. He's coming home next year. Nobody who grew up in Easton can afford to live in Easton anymore. So this is what I want to give my kids, something, put their foot on the property ladder, give this to them. And the reason I will sell one is because I need to finance it. I don't have the money just to build it by itself and keep it. So I was planning on keeping one unit, giving it to my kids, and then selling the other unit to pay for the build. That's my plan.
Anything else? Mr. Kay?
No questions, thank you.
I don't have any questions either. So, and at this point, is anyone open to a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Okay. Motion to close the hearing by Mr. Watson, seconded by Mr. Hanberger. Why don't we vote on that motion? Everybody in favor of the motion to close the hearing, raise their hand. Passes 4-0. At this point, does anybody, Mr. Watson, do you have any particular comments you'd like to make on the record?
I don't, this was approved previously, it's the same house, it's just that the existing house has to be demolished.
Mr.
Been
Hamburger?
inspected, and it's,
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I
that's
thought you were
okay.
done.
No, I was probably running on anyway.
Mr. Kay?
I have no other comment.
No, neither do I. All right, so, anyone, I'll entertain any motion that anyone cares to make?
I move we approve as submitted.
Anyone second?
I'll second it.
So, there's motion by Mr. Watson to approve the application, seconded by Mr. Hamburger. All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. That passes 4-0.
Thank you.
So you're all set.
Appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Look,
Yep. I guess.
guy came prepared. Didn't need to. Existing house. Come on,
All right.
As long as the public can use that mic.
should have recused.
We'll see if we can share it. If we'll share it.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're walking around back there, just be careful. There's wires and
Yeah.
we have standing room only here tonight.
That's all right.
So
Popular.
we're now joined by the chair, Ryan Cook, so I will defer my acting chair responsibilities to Mr. Cook.
And the second hearing doesn't start before 7.
Yep.
Right, and also, the next hearing was scheduled and is not scheduled to start until 7 o'clock, so we're probably going to have to take a break for 10 minutes or so, but maybe
So it doesn't start till 7.
Right.
we changed, so if we
Yeah,
want to...
so, because that's what we had in the public record in the meeting notice, we have to wait until 7.
Right.
Right.
We could do the minutes.
We could do the minutes, and
Yep.
I think we also have to probably have an election on who's going to be the new clerk.
Correct. Okay. All right, everybody had the chance to review the meeting minutes.
Yes.
Anybody have any comments?
No.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the minutes from the meeting of February 6, 2024.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Curran.
Seconded.
Seconded. Fantastic. Let's take a vote. All those in favor, we'll just vote by hand. That is a 5-0. And Ed, yeah, he did cut you off.
That's okay. I do have a tendency. I don't hold it.
So
all right.
patience.
All right, and then as many of you know, Tim had to step down from his position on the board for family reasons, so we do have an opening for clerk. So we are entertaining folks currently on the board who are interested in being clerk.
So I don't see Gene here.
Gene is not here. That's right. All
I guess I will volunteer to be clerk.
right, Mr. K. He's thrown his name. Okay, we have one nomination.
Yeah, I'll nominate Mr. Kay.
All right, that's a second. You sure about that?
I won't.
You can read in public?
I get nervous, but I'll try.
Okay, fantastic. Great. All right, so we have nominations seconded. All those in favor of Mr. K becoming the new clerk, go ahead, raise your hand. That would be a 4-0, and you're going to abstain.
Sure.
Very good. All right, so we have 9 minutes until we can proceed on to 95 Highland Street, which is what I'm assuming everyone is here for. Outstanding. Great. So what I'm going to do initially is I'm just going to lay some ground rules for everybody just so we understand. Boy, it's really warm in here.
Can people stand behind there? Because there's a lot of people in the hallway.
We can't have
So where we can put
I
them?
mean, it really,
I don't
Do we have
care.
any more chairs?
well, there's nowhere to put chairs. It would be standing room.
You know, Ryan, before we even deal with that, Suzanne pointed out, usually we have a freestanding microphone for the public when they, and we
Well,
don't have
well,
that.
we don't right now, and that'd be up to whoever's running the IT or the AV solution for doing that. So without that, yeah. So I'm just going to go over some ground rules for everyone, so everybody understands. So obviously, one, appreciate everyone being here, folks participating in our town government. Town government doesn't operate without the citizens participating. So first, thank you all for being here. Second thing is, obviously, with so many people wanting to speak, I need to be able to limit how much people are speaking, because otherwise we'll be here till midnight, and I don't want to be here till midnight. So basically what ends up happening is something like this in a public forum where there are lots of people who are potentially speaking. What ends up happening is you get one bite at the apple, so you'd have the opportunity, and you generally, in a public forum like this, it'd be you got 3 minutes. And so I will go ahead and time that. And what you'll see me do is when you got 1 minute left, I will raise my hand with the 1. So know you have 1 minute, so you got to start wrapping it up, okay? The other thing with so many people wanting to speak is what we don't want to have is a repeat of the same things over and over again. So what we'd like you to do is get to the point. Obviously, we know folks have a lot of feelings about the potential that is part of this special permit, and you want to be heard, and we want to make sure we have the opportunity for all of you to be heard. That's why we limit it to 3 minutes, one bite at the apple. And if it's something that's already been said, I'm going to cut you off, because we don't need to hear things multiple times from multiple people, okay? I just want you to know I'm not being rude. There's a lot of folks, and I want to make sure everybody has a chance to be heard. Is that fair? All right, everybody understands that? Yes, ma'am.
Just one question. So if we do have a couple of
The presenters who provided information up front, and we received the slide package, will have the opportunity to do their presentation. That's a maximum of 10 minutes. Okay. All right. Any other questions about, I'll take questions about how this will proceed for those who haven't been to a zoning board meeting previously. Otherwise, we got 5 minutes and we can stare at each other.
So we can't fit any more in, is that what did you say, we can't fit any more of these people in?
I mean, I don't know where, I mean, if you want to have someone sit in your lap, I mean, it's whether or not you're okay with that.
Well, I would stand back here. I mean, I just feel badly that enough.
What about these, all these chairs?
These are for the folks giving presentations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could we slide a little closer down?
What about rotating?
What's that?
What about rotating?
I
People
mean,
come
we
in after
could-
they speak, they leave, and
You know-
allow new people to come in?
I mean, that's really up to them. I'm not going to be in charge of rotating people in and out. I got enough to do here.
I thought you would be on now, though.
How many people are outside?
Probably about 15 or so.
The applicant.
Okay. Well, the applicant.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, everybody, can you quiet down a little?
Be a decision rendered tonight,
Maybe, maybe not. We don't know.
or to go to a vote?
We don't know.
Wow. I have no idea. They look old.
I mean, the hinges look okay there, but you can try. If you break it, you own it.
It's glass. Oh, there you go. Okay. Now I'm cold.
This one doesn't.
You haven't opened this one, or are you?
I don't mind.
Yeah, this-
Here, let me see if I can do it. Got that right?
Oh, that's good.
That one's good? You want to do the screen too?
Oh, yeah. It's, I think
There you go.
that's enough.
I think that's enough for now. We can always lift it up some more if, keeps getting hot.
Just want to show you something. This is the presenters.
Yes.
Have you seen this?
Yes,
This is
I
this
did see it in
team,
the
so they're
email.
I bet they're all here.
Yeah.
And this is and all the, they can click on their, I can show them,
Okay,
the PowerPoint.
Great.
It's all just right on the desktop.
right.
And it'll show on that screen, so that man's gonna probably.
Yeah, so, sir, we can't have anybody in front of the screens. We got to make sure everybody can see everything.
And it'll be recorded, so if we don't.
Yeah, I mean, use the number on this.
Yeah. You did. I got that by email from you yesterday.
This is, you can't forget this. This is the end. Let's do it.
All right.
Just make yourself a note to sign this one. Find where it is. He doesn't need this. It's there.
Just fly in?
I'm sorry?
Just fly in?
I did. Yep, landed at 10 minutes of 5. Ran home,
Impressive. From Providence?
Providence. My wife had some food out for me, ate fast, changed, and got in the car.
My kids go to school in Providence, so I end up driving there probably 8 or 10 times a week and back.
Oh, you do all back roads, 44?
I just follow whatever, like,
Oh, whatever Waze or whatever tells you is the
it
fastest.
varies
Yeah.
by time of day. It's always
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. All right, we got a minute.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I just ask, is it possible, we have a few more presenters with us, can we have the people standing behind the spot for them? So
Yeah,
that way
absolutely,
the
yeah.
presenters can see the slides?
Yep, yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry. We still have more people.
They can do whatever they want.
First time.
Thank you, thank you.
If anybody wants to fill in this middle area here as well.
Campfire style.
Beanbags.
Crisscross.
The planning board first. They first do board questions, they go around the board, then they open it to the public. The board has already done this.
All right. All right, everyone, it's showtime. All right, 7 o'clock on Tuesday, April 9th. We're ready for our second hearing, special permit for RK Realty Trust. Our new clerk, would you like to read it into the record, please?
I'll give it a shot. The Easton Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, April 9th, 2024 at 6:40 p.m. at the EastonTown Hall, Colleen Corona Boardroom, 136 Elm Street, Easton, Mass. On the following petition, special permit, RK Realty Trust, located at 95 Highland Street, Easton, Assessor's Map 14R, Lot 76, for special permit pursuant to Easton Code Book, Chapter 235, Zoning Section 235-56, and Appendix A-1. Table of Use Regulations F1 for proposed motor vehicle light service station in the business district. This notice is available at masspublicnotices.org. Comments. Planning and Zoning Board recommended. Affordable Housing Trust, not applicable. Board of Health, incomplete. Building Department, recommended. DPW, no comment. Environmental Planner, no comment. Fire Department, complete. Historical Commission, not applicable. Police Department, no comment. Water Division, no comment. Building Department, comment is the back portion of property is Aquifer Protection District. No fuel storage or gas pumps to be located there, otherwise recommended. Board of Health. Board of Health has yet to receive a septic plan design for this property, so incomplete.
Okay. All right. Mr. Patel, everyone, your team ready to go?
Yes.
All right. Whoever is starting, please take it away.
Sure. Good evening, Attorney Brianna Carrera. I'm here on behalf of the petitioners, RK Realty Trust. I have an office at 123 Broadway in Taunton. I don't know if we should just go down the line real quick to introduce
Yeah,
everyone
please
as
do.
part of our team.
Tracy Duarte, I'm the Director of Engineering at MBL Land Development.
I'm Brian Dunn with MBL Land Development and Permitting. I'm the principal of the firm with offices at 5 Bristol Drive here in southeastern Mass.
My name is Patrick Bradley, a traffic engineer with Chapel Engineering Associates.
My name is Michael Mattis. I do appraisal work with Atlantic Valuation.
Hussein Savinchka with Raymond Peterson Inc. I am a fuel system engineer.
Jamie Hughes with Caldwell Group. I am the Director of Architecture.
I'm Mr. Patel, I'm the owner of property, RK Realty Trust.
Sean Kelly, also with Chapel Engineering.
Mrs. Patel. Thank you for having us tonight. Before we start, I just wanted to ask if it would be possible just to make sure that our presentation we submitted is part of the record as our filing with the board. So to begin, we can go to the first slide. So our proposal, that's at the existing site right now, we have mixed use. We have a convenience store and one apartment above, so it's a mix of commercial and residential. We'll be removing that mixed use, which I think is preferable to the was preferable to the planning board when we met with them. And we'll be proposing all commercial use. So we're here tonight for a proposal for a gas station that requires a special permit from this board. In conjunction with the gas station, we are looking to add the permissible uses of a convenience store, which is already there now, retail, and office space, and we are in the business district. If we go to the next slide, this is the plan that was submitted with our proposal. So I just want to highlight a few quick things before we get into depth with the proposal. Our proposed building, the fuel tanks, and the dispensers are all outside of the Aquifer Protection District. Also, I'd like to highlight that we are meeting all dimensional requirements. So we are meeting frontage and area setbacks. So we are not here for any variances tonight whatsoever. We're strictly here for the special permit. If we go to the next slide. So as I mentioned, we're here tonight respectfully requesting a special permit for the motor vehicle light service. We ask that this board treat this filing as a new proposal. It has a new design, it has new proposed uses, and we have new supportive evidence here with us tonight. Despite what may be reflected in the opposition that was filed, this is not an appeal, it's not our remand. This is actually something that was filed 4 years after, over 4 years after that 2019 denial that you see there. So pursuant to Mass General Law 40A Section 16, you aren't able to bring a case before the board within a 2-year time period if it was denied. So we're well outside that 2-year time period here. So I just wanted to make that clear that my clients do have the right to be here, and we certainly appreciate your time and your consideration for listening to our proposal. If we go to the next slide. So state law and town code do apply here. So I just have some sections of the laws here, but just briefly, you'll see in our presentation that our proposal meets and supports and is in harmony with the general purpose of your bylaw. And there's several purposes that are in your bylaw. You'll see that we'll go through protecting the health and safety of residents, to encourage the most appropriate use of land, and so on and so forth. And then we have the criteria from your bylaw, specifically Chapter 235, Section 235-56B. And that sets forth 6 criteria that you look for special permits. So we've developed this presentation as a roadmap to go through all 6 of those criteria, so that way we can discuss them with you in detail. If we can go to the next slide. So this is the first criteria, the social, economic, and community needs. So you'll hear from our market expert in a minute, who will explain that there certainly is a demand for this type of use in the area. And I think it's also important to take a minute just to highlight the community support that we've received here and we submitted to the board. So a petition was signed by 528 members. Of the 528 signatures, you'll see here that 258 were Easton residents. So that's more than what was submitted with the opposition, that they had submitted a list. Also, I'd like to stress that our petition was signed by that many people. I think that's important. I think it's worth mentioning that there were at least two duplicates that we found where two people signed our petition, but then were also listed in the opposition listing. So it just raises a few concerns for me. I just think it's important that if you have signatures, someone took the time to sign something. Continuing on with the demonstration with the social, economic, and community needs, I'd like to turn it over to Mike so he can discuss some of the market aspects for you.
Awesome, thank you very much.
No problem.
So if we can go to the next slide. So just a couple things here. First off is there was some comments in the feedback from the abutters and stuff regarding the industry itself, and that it hasn't really gone through many changes. And I'd like to highlight overall that since COVID, the gas station industry has gone through a significant change. It was one of the few things that were deemed essential services. They were one of the few things in our communities that were still open, people could get to what they needed and stuff for resources. Since that time, a lot of gas station owners have been improving operations with installations of things like generators and stuff like that. And when we have situations of the storms, blackouts and loss of power, they're able to at least power back up, provide services to the emergency services and stuff like that, help community residents and everything with fuel for their generators and everything. So there is a need. There is a real been, over these last few years, a change in the way we visit gas stations because we're focused on our community bubbles and stuff like that. So, I just want to point out the industry as a whole has seen, quite a change from, what it used to be, back in the day when you'd go in and get your slushy and a hot dog, pump some gas and you just leave. A lot of them now are becoming destinations, and I think that's apparent in some of the changes you've seen in your own community and how they've been handled and stuff. If you want to go to the next one, okay. I'm sorry.
Please keep the comments. We don't need hush comments and stuff like that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just some other things that that we that were brought up in there and stuff was kind of highlighting the market itself, and that that the pricing could be fair, and that this is a very competitive fuel market and stuff like that. And I'm not really quite sure if this pocket of the community is very competitive when you start looking at some of the areas around you and stuff like that. So I've got some slides here in a second that will pull up that and kind of show you what's going on in some of the areas around you. The other thing is you'll notice that Alltown came in 2020, 2021 and redeveloped that whole area with this a modern store and stuff. The reason for that is because they understood that there was something that was underserved in this community. That your community lacks a modern store. You don't have opportunities. You don't have choices. You've got a couple service garages and older stations. So they come in, they do their remodeling and stuff like that. And then the last thing is, what's going to happen is the tanks start expiring at some of these stations and stuff. Owners are going to have to start making choices about whether or not they're going to want to upgrade. And here, you'll have an opportunity that somebody will already have been in. Everything will be done, and it'll be all up to standards and well presented. If you want to go to the next one. So this just shows you overall the state of Massachusetts, and I just want to point out two things here. First off, if you look at gasoline volumes, people have been spouting a lot about what's going on in the EV world, and I've got a couple slides that will point out a few highlights of that there. I'm not against it or anything like that. I do understand exactly how it works and what's going to come of it and all of that. Nobody, I think, is dumb. But at the end of the day, you'll notice that volumes have stayed pretty flat with the exception of COVID. There isn't a big change that's going on. We still need gasoline stations. We still need to have options out there. At the same time, you'll notice that margins are going up. The reasons that margins are going up is because we have got higher costs and less options because the number of gas stations that are out there are decreasing. Because people are making choices either not to replace equipment or stuff like that, or they're being redeveloped for alternative uses. So as such, as this keeps happening, it's going to keep driving up prices. And we will see that red line keep moving higher and higher. And that's the reason why we're paying more for gas in some markets than others, is because owners are able to take advantage of some opportunities. If we go to the next one, this here is just kind of highlighting two of the things that you have going on here as far as the primary competition for the store over here on Highland Street. And you have the Alltown, which would be a very similar type convenience store, except that is what I'd refer to as almost like a new to industry, kind of like a foundation store. You build it as like a flagship type thing. What we have going on over here is a neighborhood convenience store. You know, it's built to fit in with the community. You know, it's not this big osterous thing that's gonna come in and take over this whole entire corner and, you know, redesign an area. You know, that's what it's being designed for. And then when you look at your other alternative, you have a service garage, which those are staples. Like we can't, like, and this is the thing that's critical. People have to understand, we can't lose those in our communities. Cars are getting more complex. They're getting more difficult. You know, we want to be able to keep them there, but at the end of the day, a lot of those, they become essentially boutique retailers. You know, they have a very, you know, loyal customer base. A lot of it is people that get their services there and stuff like that. Why? Because they don't have the secondary services. This kind of mixes the match and brings together both those worlds where you have a community member that's still part of your community running a store. You can build connections with them, and it's not just some organization coming in just trying to take everybody's margins and stuff, you know, stuff like that. So if we go to the next one. So these circles here, I just, you know, highlight some of the different areas of what's going on. So that red circle in the middle there, that's your community, that's Easton. This was done at the end of last week. And you'll notice those green circles over there are basically just, you know, going out up towards Brockton there. Gas in Brockton on the same day that you guys were paying $3.49 at the downtown Alltown, up in Brockton, they were paying around $2.95, $2.99, $3. I mean, that's a 50-cent difference for a very small commute, you know, out of this community for, you know, like to see that much of disparity. The reason why that happens is because there's adequate competition. Consumers have choices. You don't have anybody in there that can just control the situation and stuff like that. Okay, this will give your people in the community here more choices and start putting more money back into their pockets. Okay, if we go to the next slide. This here kind of highlights for you what's going on from a petroleum base. So if you just take your community number, and I pulled the 26,000 out of the submittal that was put in, average household size, basically whittle that down, your community overall picks up about 155 million gallons of gas. Okay, and this was adjusted for electric vehicles, which right now in the state of Massachusetts is about 1% of all the registrations, at least that's according to their website. Okay, so I think I used 2% in this to even take it further down. Okay, so in this case here, if you got, you know, 155, you know, million gallons going out, you divide that by per mile per gallon, you know, you could be saving your residents anywhere from $1 million to $3 million, depending on how much margin savings you have between your other communities. I mean, 30 cents a gallon on 1 million gallons for the residents here is $300,000 back into their pockets that you guys can start using towards other things here. You know, people, we always think of gasoline as being this pennies game. It is a pennies game, but it's also done by millions of gallons. And when you get to some of these big guys, it's really important to them to understand how it all works. And that's what they're trying to capture here. Okay, so this will highlight this for you. If we go to the next one, this here is just kind of talking about what's going on in the EV world. I'm not going to sit here and hammer a few things, but I just want to kind of point out a couple of things. Tesla last week reported on their earnings. Their EV sales are down significantly, you know, the number of EVs that are being purchased. If you look at what just happened with the eclipse, laugh as much as you want about this, but there is news all over in the state of New Hampshire about, hey, by the way, as you go north of Concord, be prepared that all of your electric vehicles, all of this, like, you better have a plan because we don't, these systems are not supported up there. We don't have all of these electric systems up there and stuff. They're still in need to have, you know, gas stations out there. Like our electric grid, you know, the quote up in here from the MIT paper, you know, they understand that with, like, our infrastructure can't support all this yet. We just can't do it. Okay, so it just gives us the opportunity to still give people choices up there. You know, where they can either go with the gas, you know, maybe some electric. You know, hybrid, I mean, Toyota, that's, I believe if we check with Ford, that's what Ford's gonna be pushing now. They're gonna be going more towards the hybrid models because that's where, you know, the opportunities, that's where the cost savings are. Okay, so that's what this will highlight. If we go to the next one, this just kind of shows you what's been going on in the markets themselves. And you can see, and it doesn't matter, you know, people always wanna play the politics of this and say, you know, this is left and right and all of that, but let's just step back from that for a second. You'll notice that in both groups, people are losing confidence in what's going on in the EV industry. You know, people just don't think that our aspirations for 2035 are going to be completely possible. You know, and if it doesn't happen, you know, we have to be prepared for that. You know, we don't want to all of a sudden be going down this rabbit hole and, you know, not have options out there for, you know, gas stations and stuff like that. Okay. So the next one I believe will be my last, if we go up onto it there. Oh, this is doing this. This just highlights for you the difference in cost. There was a comment in there on the tax base. And so I appreciate great work as far as doing the research on that to, understand what goes into a gas station and how the costs are. Unfortunately, the numbers that were used were pre-COVID and stuff like that. The cost of, developing a gas station now, underground tanks, permitting, getting all the work done, the dispensers and stuff like that has cost significantly. So from a tax-based perspective, if that's what people are, concerned about how this is gonna, contribute to the taxes, there is more benefit there. So this just kind of highlights where the current costs are to try to get, tanks installed and stuff like that. So there is a little bit more opportunity there. So if we go into the next one, and then this here just kind of talks about a few things regarding what's going on with, some of the other comments in there. EV cars or gas cars, it doesn't, from a safety perspective, they both do the same thing. Turning in and out of gas, in and out of gas stations and stuff like that. It's just as dangerous. So like some of the comments around that, kind of worried me a little bit. Seeing those in there. Then the stuff as far as EV charging, there was stuff saying that regarding home prices and things like that. Sure, home prices probably appreciated more in communities that might have had more with EV charging and stuff like that. But let's take into consideration the opportunities in some of these other communities to bring it in and stuff like that. And it's harder, in low-income communities to try to develop all these types of things. So some of that stuff can have a play in there. So we want to be careful with that. And then the last thing on like the fire department, trying to break out fire department costs. Hazardous materials. There's a list. I mean, go through and to assume that every hazardous material spill would be attributed to a gas station. And trying to allocate cost to that probably isn't fair because they're going all over the place for hazardous material spills and stuff like that. So just a couple of those things just wanted to kind of point out there from a cost benefit perspective that there are opportunities there that we don't want to miss and everything. So I believe after this we'll be dropping into the traffic.
All right, thank you. So Chapel Engineering conducted a traffic impact and access study based on, in accordance with state and industry guidelines. And so the first part of that was to establish existing conditions of the site. So what we did is we connected turning moving counts at both the Highland and Foundry Street intersection, as well as both existing driveways, as well as ATR counts, which are automatic traffic recorders, on both streets to get an idea of the daily and the peak traffic conditions. We can go to the next slide. And so the next step we took was to look at the sight lines that were available at the site today based off of the speeds that we did record with those counts. And we were able to find that both driveways currently exist with enough space for these sight distances. We can move to the next one. And when it came to trip generation for this site, so traffic, gas stations for the most part, most of the traffic is based on a pass-by basis, meaning that you drive, you see the gas station, you use it, you're not going to just use the gas station. So ITE standards has that 75% of site traffic is via pass-by traffic. So we used that for our report. And we had found that the traffic was minimal in increase. The new trips were an additional 1 trip every 1 to 2 minutes during peak hours in both the AM and PM and Saturday peak hours. And when we compare to the existing site, the existing store, we found that the projected traffic increase would be around 1 to 2 extra vehicles per minute for peak hours. We can move on to the next one. And as you can see here, we look at the distribution for the site traffic. We found that as most of the traffic in the area was from Foundry Street, we found that 90% of site traffic would be from Foundry Street, with the additional 10% being from the from Highland Street. And if you found that the largest increase was around 16 to 26 vehicles per hour, or 1 car every 2 to 4 minutes. And we found that through our analysis that there were no real impacts on delay or level of service for both the intersection and both the driveways. We can move on to the next one. And as for this, the driveways would be reconstructed as a part of this project. We move closer to the corners of both sides, so that will allow for better sight lines and also for better maneuverability of trucks moving onto the site. Based on projected sales, we would expect only one fuel delivery per week and would be scheduled outside of the peak and night hours. And as you can see via the site plan there, we did accommodate for truck traffic, and it can show that trucks can not only access the site, but it can also exit the site safely and not interfere with the intersection traffic. We'll move to the next one. And this one also just shows for the fire truck how there's adequate space for a fire truck to maneuver around the site. So basically, in conclusion, the findings of our study, which adhere to state and industry guidelines, the project is expected to have minimal impact on traffic within the area, and it's been designed for safe and efficient access.
Just briefly to touch upon utilities, there's currently an on-site septic system. We are proposing a new septic system, which is always great for a site to have. And we will be continuing to utilize town water services. We'll go into some safety measures too. This design includes a multitude of safety measures to protect the users, the environment, and the surroundings and the residents. So I'll introduce Hussein so we can talk to you a little bit about the fuel aspect of it and safety measures that would be implemented for that design.
Good evening, Hussein Sinistream again for the record. So basically at a gas station, everyone in this building has been into a gas station. There's different parts of the gas station. So as you're at the dispensers, we have, in the fuel dispensing area, we have on the ground, you might have noticed in the concrete pad, there's little V grooves on the edge of the perimeter. That's required by the fire suppression system, and also it kind of, if there's a minor spill on the dispensing area, it'll hold some of the fuel that does get spilled. And then as you go in, you have the hoses. Each hose has a breakaway, so if someone, a lot of the incidents are, someone's fueling and they forget to put the hose away, they drive off. There's a little coupling at the top, and it will break away. Fuel will not spill onto the surface. We have shear valves under the dispenser, so as you're looking at the dispenser, where the island meets the dispenser at the very bottom, for each product that's housed in there are shear valves. So if someone comes in and drives into the dispenser will come off, but the shear valves will cap it. Nothing will spill into the environment. Under the dispensers, there are containment sumps. There are some diagrams in there as well. There's a containment sump, so each dispenser that's proposed has a containment sump. And that sump, the product piping comes into the dispenser sump. They would be fiberglass, so they're thicker than your plastic sumps. Fiberglass sumps, there's a sensor installed in each dispenser sump. So if there's any type of spill within that dispenser, an alarm will go off in the building. So there's a monitoring system in the building. The next step is the fire suppression. So in Massachusetts, every gas station requires a fire suppression system, and that's mandated by the state. So this system would be provided as well here. And per NFPA, each facility has an emergency shutoff. The emergency shutoff has to be located not more than 100 feet and not less than 20 feet from the dispensers. So there would be one in the store for the operator in the store, and there would probably be one outside if we can't meet that 100-foot threshold. The next slide shows kind of the sumps. So the one on the left is the dispenser containment sump. It shows product piping coming in. It's double wall product piping. This slide here shows a tank sump. It has a STP, submersible turbine pump, that actually pumps the fuel to the dispensers. And basically, from the tanks to the dispensers, we have to maintain a 1/8 of an inch per foot slope. So the product piping at the tanks are the lowest part of the sump of the system. It's piped to the dispensers. If there's any breach in the double wall, I have a sample of a double wall product piping. It's pretty solid. If there's any breach in that, the product goes into a contained sump. So there's that added safety as well. And again, there's sensors. The next slide, please. I can pass this around if you want. Anyone interested?
Anybody wants to take a look at it?
It hasn't been used, so it's clean. And then the tank, the actual fuel storage system we have in Massachusetts, which is pretty advanced in all the other states in New England. I think Rhode Island might require it as well, but in Mass, they require enhanced vapor recovery. So the state has issued that, mandated that for all gas stations. It's basically, during the transfer of fuel into the tanks, there was some concern with the vapors going into the environment. So the entire transaction has to be a fuel-tight system, basically vapor-tight system, I mean. So anything that's dropped into the fuel is recovered by the fuel tanker, and each site has a vent, and there's a pressure relief valve cap there that basically maintains the pressure in the system, in the vents and whatnot from the tank. So we would have to adhere to that. If you go to New Hampshire, we do a lot of work in New Hampshire, Maine. They do not require EVR. So it's, while they're dropping fuel, vapors could be going, into the environment. The leak detection console unit. So each facility has a system that's monitored 24 hours a day. It's basically the central monitoring system for the entire system. So there's sensors in each sump, as I mentioned. The product piping is monitored. There's a leak detector in the product piping. So if there's any increase or decrease in pressure, that will go off in the store, and they would have to react to that. Double wall fuel piping, kind of went over that. So this would be fuel piping. I can pass that around if anyone wants. Then we have the turbine tank sumps. So above, on the top of each tank, there's a 42-inch diameter tank sump. And as I mentioned, the product piping comes into that tank sump. There's a turbine pump, so everything's pumped out of there. If someone just goes to the hose, as soon as you trigger that hose, the nozzle, fuel would be dispersed into the system. So that's the turbine sump, and again, that's monitored as well. There's a sensor in there, so that if there's any type of spill, it's heard in the store. This is I didn't go into actually the double wall tank. I missed the double wall fiberglass tank. So the tanks are state of the art. A lot of the facilities, the older facilities, and some of the facilities I think that were mentioned in the document that was submitted by one of the abutters, I think they're older. They might be older, single wall or double wall steel tanks. Double wall steel was used for decades. Single wall was used forever. In Mass, single wall tanks are slowly coming out. This facility would have a double wall tank, and basically it's a two walls, kind of picture cardboard, but obviously stronger than cardboard. You have the corrugated section in between. That's the interstitial space. So that monitors. So this tank, it's pretty solid. They're very well made. So there's the double wall tank. There's an interstitial fluid that's put inside this. In this diagram, it's green, so it's like a brine solution that's put inside of that entire tank. There's a reservoir on top of the tank that's also filled up with brine. There's a sensor inside of that monitors the fluid. So if there's a decrease or an increase in fluid, that alarm would go off inside of the store. Again, increase. If there's a increase in fluid, it would be from the outside. Something comes into the system. Decrease, there's a spill. There's a breach in the outer wall. Then there's two other structures that are two other risers that are on the tank. One is a fill and one is a vapor. That's where the driver would fill the tank. When they fill the tank, they also hook up a vapor connection to basically pull up the vapors that are as the tank's filling up. Filling vapor, yeah. I think that's it. But basically, since the 90s, double wall tanks have been prevalent in the area. There's less and less single wall tanks being installed and less double wall steel tanks being installed.
There's monthly inspections too.
Monthly inspection. So as mandated by EPA, the operator has to have a Class A, B, and C individual on staff. And the Class B individual basically has to do a monthly inspection, basically a walk-around inspection of the entire fuel system. And that can be done by the owner. But what the owners have done on their other facilities, they hire that out to a company that actually does these inspections for them, in addition to the annual and triannual inspections that are required by the EPA. So it would be a, state-of-the-art, one of the better facilities in the area.
Thank you. Brian?
So what we try to do in this slide is kind of capture some of the existing sites that have gas stations and convenience stores that are also in sensitive areas. We have 200 Washington Street, which is right up here at the intersection of Elm Street and Washington Street. It's not depicted on this one, but it's on the next slide. We also have Turnpike Street, 460. Turnpike Street, which has wetlands in the back. It's also in an ACEC. And then we have the 2 gas stations at 5 Corners, which have all of these gas stations have what we call the typical canopy design, which is not part of our proposal. As you see in part of the presentation towards the end, you'll see what type of a building this is going to look like and what the canopy is going to look like. So these are the other existing other gas stations we just talked about: 460 Turnpike, 490 Foundry at 5 Corners, the 491 at Foundry Street at 5 Corners, and 200 Washington Street. 200 Washington Street, as you can see, is really surrounded by a residential neighborhood and has a growing farm across the street from it. So these are gas stations that have been permitted and are in use here in the town of Easton, which two of them have ongoing mechanics on duty with servicing vehicles at those 2 locations. Our proposal does not have any service of vehicles at this location. It will only be for the convenience store, the mixed use of the office area, and for the fuel station.
I think that's important, Brian, that point that you just made, because there was a part of the opposition that had a striking picture of a explosion at a gas station in Mansfield. And if you pull up the article related to that, that was actually caused by, unfortunately, a mechanic in there that was welding at the time. So it had nothing to do with actually the gas station. They were welding inside the building, making repairs. You won't see that here. We won't have an auto repair store or any type of use like that. It's just, as Brian said, the convenience store and the gas station.
And like I said before, the majority of these locations are in sensitive areas. They're in ACECs. And actually the 5 Corners is specifically in a Zone 2, which is the Zone 2 of the DEP's water supply for the wellhead protection area, which is the same, almost the same as your aquifer protection district, which is protecting the wells of the town.
We'll go over the impacts to the natural environment. I apologize, what was bullets on our plan shows up as funkier symbols, but.
Yeah, if you noticed that they were like number 10s, but they're really bullets.
It wasn't
I don't know
intentional,
what happened.
they were bullets, it's just a display issue. So the owners have done a really good job lately of cleaning up the site, maintaining it, so they're gonna continue to do that. It's the same owners, they're gonna stay there.
Folks, please, I mean, if folks are going to make comments, I'm going to just ask people to leave. Everyone will have the chance to present. We don't need comments while they're doing their presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
So as part of the proposed project, some additional measures that they're gonna do to help with noise and light include the scheduling of the fuel delivery. So as it was said before, the amount of fuel that they're anticipating going through, they only need 1 delivery per week from 1 truck. And the owners have the flexibility of scheduling that at a time that's mostly convenient, but they're not going to schedule it at nighttime where it's going to be loud. They're not going to schedule it during peak hours where it's going to affect traffic. So they can schedule that where it's going to have the least impact. We're proposing an increased landscape buffer along the front of the site, which encompasses both roads. And we're in landscaping, and that's going to help with headlights, noise. It's going to help provide a noise and sound buffer to the abutters. The removal of there's a donation bin on the side of the site now, and those are known to be a place where people tend to just dump stuff that they don't want. So as part of this project, they're gonna remove that. The proposed dumpster location is gonna be at the rear of the site, as far from both streets as possible, and it's gonna be fenced in and enclosed by landscaping. So it's not gonna be something that you're looking at trash anymore. It's gonna be very well maintained. So this is the draft of the proposed grading and how it's probably gonna be fully designed. The site is being graded in such a way that it's gonna prevent any stormwater runoff from the fuel storage tanks and the fuel dispensing pad from making its way into the Aquifer Protection District. So these green areas represent catchment areas or watershed areas. So the two green areas go to the two proposed rain gardens, this one over there. And as you can see, the rain garden over here, the watershed area going to it is really just the rear parking lot. The purple area is the watershed area that would encompass the fuel storage area and the dispensing area. So if all of the above mentioned prevention measures that Hussein went into, if every single one of them failed and there was a spill, it would be in that catchment area, which we are proposing a stormwater management system at the front of the site that's going to have an offline oil water separator unit. That will contain it too, and that would get pumped up. So plenty of measures to handle if there was an issue. Go to the next one. So this is a landscaping and site distance plan. So as you can see in this plan, we are significantly pulling the pavement away from the intersection in the road. So the landscape buffer is more than doubling. I don't know if you can see this hatched area with the dots, that's existing pavement that's going away. So we're pulling the pavement further away. We're providing landscaping along the front to provide, again, noise and light screening. We've also relocated the entrances, and really not relocated, but shrunk the curb cuts. It's a really wide curb cut, especially along Highland Street. So shrunk it up, and by locating it to the furthest left section of it, it's allowing vehicles to fully pull out and stop at the intersection, unlike the previous proposal that showed the site distance, the turning where if they were pulling out, they'd kind of be stuck halfway when they had to stop at the intersection. So this is a much safer design. We also are proposing landscaping, like I said earlier, around the dumpster area, so that's shown on this plan as well.
With regard to fiscal impacts, I think Mike did a great job discussing the market study that was done for this project. I'd like to note that this proposal includes 2 new permissible uses of retail and office space. So that would also increase the property taxes with my clients having more commercial tenants on site. The community support too that was previously shown that we submitted the petitions in support of this demonstrates not only that we have support from Easton residents, but also from surrounding communities. So the way that I take that is that when people come here and use your businesses, such as this gas station, perhaps they're using the bank too, and perhaps they're going shopping. And I would think that the town of Easton would want their businesses to thrive and help each other and feed off of each other. So I think that would be great too. Is we're promoting and we're proposing new businesses that would hopefully draw other of their customers to go to other areas in your town as well. If you go to the next slide, I believe that's you, Tracy.
Yep, so some of the site improvements, we previously talked about some of them. One is a new septic system that's going to be designed to meet local and state regulations. The big improvement to the site is the stormwater management system. So right now there is no stormwater management system on site. There's one catch basin at the front of the site that collects not only the site runoff, but also some runoff from the road that enters into the site and goes into the catch basin, and that's all tied into the municipal drainage system. So our site's proposing to reduce the amount of runoff that's going into the municipal system. We're proposing rain gardens and water quality units and stuff that's going to increase TSS removal and water quality. All new drainage systems have to be designed to meet the mass stormwater regulations. We're also going to have to meet the local regulations, but all systems are going to be designed to have a long-term operation and maintenance plan that the owners are going to have to adhere to. As I said before, the landscaping is a huge improvement, increased landscaping buffer at the front of the site. We're reducing the large curb cut and putting it further away from the intersection to increase the safety.
The neighborhood character and social structure. So considering the site is within the business districts, the proposed gas station use is permissible by special permit. And I think that's important for me to kind of explain. Obviously, the board is well aware of what that means, but just for the public. So we're not here for a use variance. A use variance would be a use that is we're asking to be made legal. It's illegal in this district to be made legal. That's not what we're here for. We're here for a special permit, which means that when proposing or when drafting the town bylaws, this was a use considered for this type of district. And perhaps it needs to be regulated more with some conditions and some boards to oversee it. But you have discretion here to be able to approve it. It's not an outright prohibited use that would warrant a use variance. So the special permit is what we're here for. And we're in the business district. We're not in a residential district. I think that's important as well. This site may be bordered by some residents. We have some major travel ways that it borders. We have one residence direct abutter to the left if you're looking at this plan here. And then we have some vacant lands and a savings bank and then all of the other shopping plazas around there. But if you go to the outskirts of the edge of any business district, you're going to find residences. You're going to find a different type of district that borders it. You may even find residences in the business district. So in taking that into consideration, we've really developed this design and this proposal to try to consider that there are residents here. And by doing that, what we've done is we're maintaining the current hours of operation. We're not looking to extend them. We're not looking to have a 24-hour service station. Their current hours of operation are 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Sundays. And they're not looking for any changes to that. So that is what the neighborhood has become accustomed to. Again, we're only proposing one fuel delivery per week, and that would be coordinated with flexibility to make sure that it's not inconvenient to the neighborhood. And then our architectural design as well. I'll let Jamie get into that in a moment just to kind of explain to you how our proposal in our architecture is really very quite different and not your typical gas station that you would see. Jamie, if you'd like to go into the details. Thank you. Couldn't find you there for a second.
Yeah, so the building is really designed to kind of weave itself into the residential fabric of what's around it by use of materials, architectural gestures, and materiality. We're using high-end materials that are really picked up around the adjacent residences. The cedar-like shingles, the brick water table and face, the architectural asphalt shingles, the PVC trim that's around the windows, and a more standard traditional residential window. Kind of really picking up on those elements that are around the area. We try to help break down the scale of the building by some gestures of dormers and larger windows to help bring more of that residential style and feel into it. And you can see that the canopy is not your traditional gas canopy. We really try to really tie it in more into the building and try to lose that mystique of the traditional gas station canopy of the flat, every day. And you can see it in the middle of everywhere. And then obviously the signage, we would probably not have internally lit signage. We would all do that by standard light fixtures and not do the internally lit. That sums up the most part.
And also the sign is going to be manually operated with probably some ground lights on it. So this is not going to be an LED sign that's ostentatious at all, and it'll be changed out by the owners and the people who are working here at the facility.
So I don't know if Ajay and Ekta wanted to say anything.
I just want to add that in 1999, my father-in-law bought this property. For 25 years, our family has been running this business in Easton, and not a single day it was closed. So we are open, like serving the Easton community, Christmas, Thanksgiving, even the pandemic. So we were there for the community. We still would love to continue serving the community for many years to come. So just asking for your support for this project. I believe this project will add and benefit the community.
Thank you. I think that's all we have for you tonight. I'd be happy to provide a closing, but I don't want to take up your time. You've seen our presentation, so I'd like to open it up to questions and however the chairman would like to proceed.
All right, Ed, do you want to go first and share to my left?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Ronald?
I have a couple of questions. What is the size of the storage tank?
The size of it?
We're proposing two 15,000 gallons. So one would be devoted to regular, the other would be split between diesel and premium.
And you said you're proposing one delivery a week?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And how big is the tanker that delivers it?
They're usually about 12 to 14,000 gallons.
No, that's 10,500. The tanker, 10,500.
11,500 in units.
They own other gas stations, so they're speaking.
The tank is 10,000 gallons.
500.
And how many vehicles are you predicting to get, looking for service per week?
Yeah, so we can go back to the slide if we need to, but so
Which one do you want?
the trip generation.
This one here?
One more, I think.
There you go.
Yep. So you can see on the table on the left all the different uses. So we have the proposed gas.
I can't read it from this angle.
So you have a so we have the proposed gas station with also the office space and the retail space listed there based off of ITE land use codes. So this is standard for generation. So when you take those and you take away the pass-by trips, which we had said is about 75% from the current roadway, it comes out to about, in the AM peak hour, a total of 35 exiting and entering vehicles. In the PM, 49 vehicles, and on a typical Saturday in the peak hour, it would be around 32 vehicles. So
how many would that be a week?
well, we have it based off of just peak hours. It's not necessarily for all of it, but I mean, weekly, daily, around 760 vehicles proposed. That's an average week, and 590 for an average day for like a Saturday.
So 1,200, I'm a little confused.
So he said 760 plus or minus each week, and then on Saturday, maybe 594.
So
Including
1,200.
the pass-by that would already be going.
Yes. Which is 75% of it, is cars already driving by.
I think you're gonna need more than one delivery a week.
We
So-
already have a gas station in neighborhood just like Easton, and based on what we are doing there, we are not expecting any new traffic coming from highway or anything. Whatever we are servicing the customers right now, maybe 15 to 20% more cars, because people not gonna come from the highway or other just to get
Because of
gas.
the location,
We're gonna serve mostly what we are serving right now.
So they're speaking from their experience from one of their other gas stations that they
We are not
own, where
even
they have
looking
once
at
per week.
anything else, but from our past experience, and we have a similar location elsewhere, so based on that, we estimated.
And somewhere along the presentation, you noted that the two stations at Five Corners are extremely high. And you would be competing at a substantial.
It would drive.
Owning
it would,
a gas
it would
station,
drive.
we know if we are the only gas stations, and we have no other competition, we can keep our prices like 10-15 cents more. But if we are competing, we have other gas stations, we'll keep our prices down, they'll keep their prices down.
The competition drives the price. I think that's what Mike was getting
That's
at.
exactly what Mike was saying.
Exactly.
I think it's important too, just to note that, when, like, there's already a convenience store business there. So there's already a very established customer base that's in and out of there all the time. That's where most of this business will come from people are already using the convenience store. If you live on the other side of Easton, or, the neighboring communities, you're not gonna drive by 3 gas stations that come over here. I mean, if you just think of your general fueling patterns for most of us, we get our gas, on the way to work. Typically, we don't wanna cross traffic, and we don't wanna waste time. We don't wanna do it after work, because we all wanna get home. But none of us really mind if we're 5 minutes late for work sometimes, so we'll get our gas, generally speaking, in those patterns there. So that's kind of what will happen here. So the people that are already using the store for their daily traffic going back and forth will be the majority of the customer base here. It's not we're not pulling people from Brockton to come down to Easton to get gas. They don't need to do that. They already have their market.
And the convenience store, will it continue as a beer and wine?
Yes.
Or more like, what I visualize is like a Cumberland Farms.
I don't know if they have more than beer and wine, but
We have beer.
beer and wine. So they'll be renewing their alcohol license with the town.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because that's what a lot of people here visualize. And that's why I was trying to make the reference earlier to the fact that when you think of like these Norias, these All Towns, these Cumberland Farms, these are flagship stores. They're going out building these to basically make a mark in a community. The type of store that we're proposing here is a neighborhood store. You know, this is to serve the people of the community, of the neighborhood. This isn't to go out there and be like, hey, here's this big destination location that we want to try to pull everybody into. That's why when you go into these stores, they're starting to get these expansive food service offerings. They're putting in these car washes because they're really trying to make it like a destination that they're, you know, driving the traffic to. That's not what this is. This is really here to meet the community. That's what it's going to do.
And I think that's what AJ, the owner, the actor said, is that they've been here for 25 years, they want to be here a lot longer. They've been serving the community, and they still want to continue to serve the community as a neighborhood store.
And would it be a name brand gasoline that would be sold,
Yes, yes,
like a Sunoco or a?
yes. Citgo, Sunoco, Mobil.
Jeremy, you have any questions?
I think you had said that there's a apartment above there now,
Yes.
and it's going to be converted to an office.
So, yes, it's actually, it would be a whole new building. So the residential use would be removed and it would be office space on the top floor.
And I guess I'm just curious about that decision. Like, what's the thought process?
For the types of offices, professional offices?
Well, no, but just changing it from being a residential use to a office use. Well, what's the thought process of that?
The thought process was, if you want to
Well,
speak to that, Brian.
Actually, when we, if I may, Mr. Chairman. When we originally met with the land use planner and the department heads, we originally had it as residential units on the second floor. And it was discussed that, you know, maybe that mixed use may not be well received. So we changed the project to be office space only and retail on the first floor and office space on the second floor.
Be well received by
By all the other boards
By the
in town,
boards.
yes.
Thanks.
Let me ask, what's the proposed, it's going to be 2 office spaces? What's the proposed square footage?
I have that, one sec, sorry. So it's, second floor office is 2860 square feet.
Oh, it's one big space.
It's one big space.
But they could subdivide it.
Yes,
Yeah.
but that's what's going on.
All right. Sorry. John, you have anything?
Yes, I have a few questions. I'll try to take my questions in the order of the presentation that you provided. First of all, and I don't remember everybody's name, forgive me.
Okay, no worries.
Sir, you
Good for the
talked about the market aspect of this. How many places in Easton right now dispense fuel, do you know?
In Easton,
Yeah.
we would have 5.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it's 4 or 5. We showed 4 on that slide. The answer is 8.
I was actually, just, thank you, but I counted 7 just on my own personal knowledge. So I guess my question is, where is the market need in this town for another service station? Where we already have, by my count, not that I'm not the end all be all, but we'll just say, for the purposes of this question, 7. Where is the driving need to put another location that's going to dispense fuel in this town?
Yeah, so I believe that this really kind of speaks to, you know, the need here that's going on in the community. So if you look here and you look at really that red circle, you know, there's only one other gas station there. That's the Alltown, the Five Corners. Those are the only 2 gas stations that essentially, you know, you will find within that community. So if you take all of the residential, you know, basically going down to 495, from that point there, I believe that's, was that Foundry Street?
Foundry Street, Route 123.
So, you know, we come down from there, there's nothing to service that area of the community, nothing. They're either going to the other side of 495, or they're coming across, you know, Easton and going up into the Alltown there, the Five Corners. You know, so what this is doing is this is opening up that bottom part of the market there and giving these consumers down there a choice. It's giving the motorists that are getting off 495 and traveling into Easton a choice. You know, they don't have that now until they get into here. So if you live in that area, you're gonna either have to drive all the way into Easton and then back out to get gas again. You know, now what this is doing is this is giving you another option over there. So this area would be considered underserved, and then just in the pricing differential, it highlights that. You know, because they understand that, you know, what's your option? So are you gonna drive if you live over by where that 123 is signed by the red circle there? You know, do you want to drive an extra 10, 15 minutes to go save, you know, 10, 15 cents a gallon? You know, we're not doing that anymore. So people are gonna pay that $3.49 there. But if there was another gas station in the market there, that $3.49 price isn't gonna happen anymore. Because there's gonna be somebody else that's gonna step in and say, hey, I'm willing to make another offering here to the, you know, for the community and stuff like that. And that price comes down. So that's how you can see that this area right here is just an underserved market. You know, it's just overpriced, and you can look across the board there. You know, I don't think there's anybody in all of the communities over there that are priced as high as that All Town was. You know, on the data. And then if we went through there, because I came through the town today, they're still $3.49. You know, they're
Right.
still higher than everybody
But
else around here.
And I'm not sure that it's within our purview to consider whether or not the applicants are gonna be charging a certain amount per gallon for gasoline.
I agree with that. I wouldn't be asking that. All I'm saying is that just through basic, you know, when we think about supply and demand and all of this, if we increase the supply in the market and we give consumers more opportunity, then the current operators here are gonna have to make a choice because they will lose market share. People will make a change. And when that happens, those operators will immediately, you know, start making changes. And we see that all the time. Like we were referencing the Cumberland Farms earlier. Look at any market that Cumberland Farms goes and drops a new store into. Immediately there's a price war. People automatically start going to battle over gas prices. And the reason is because they're all trying to, you know, protect and establish a market share. So what will happen is essentially they will keep pushing that until all that excess margin comes out of the market, and then everybody's basically working on, you know, a very thin piece. And then they realize we can't bring any more gas stations in. It's the reason why they leave, because at some point, the older operators, you know, like around here what will happen is the older operators, the All Town, will essentially kind of gobble them all up over time because they're not going to be able to make enough money to replace their petroleum equipment and stuff like that. And they'll have to say, hey, we're not competitive anymore. And that will change the dynamics of the market. So this is why we see these shifts go on all the time. And that's why we still have, you know, new developments going on in the convenience store industry, because there's migration patterns, there's, you know, changing demographics in the communities. And then all of a sudden, somebody will see a pocket like this, you know, and they'll say, hey, there's an opportunity here. You know, so this is still an underserved market. Your pricing in this market is significantly higher than the surrounding communities, and that's because of supply and demand.
And you think that if we were to approve this one station, that difficulty that you've just described is gonna go away?
So I do believe if you approve this one station, that there will be more competition here, and they'll have to make some changes in their pricing.
Okay.
It would be very difficult for them to hold a very high price if somebody else, because again, as consumers, if all of a sudden somebody comes into this market and they lower the gas price by 40 cents, I mean, you're talking a mile away from each other, somebody's 40 cents lower, you know, and you're somebody that is a low income earner or somebody that, you know, doesn't have a lot of disposable income, you're excited to save that 40 cents. I mean, on a 20-gallon tank, you're talking $8. Every single week, $8 adds up for somebody that's on a fixed budget. And this is what we're talking about right now. You know, again, I know that it sounds like it's only pennies to a lot of us because we take it for granted. But for people that really do count their pennies, being able to save these small pieces of margin add up after a while.
And this might kind of dovetail into the traffic aspect of this, but did I hear correctly that the expectation is that this isn't going to be a destination where everyone's going to flock to this gas station, but they're going to capture the market of cars that just happen to be driving back and forth?
Exactly, because it's not designed like that.
Well, so how does that assertion square with what you were just saying about the price and the fact that this is an underserved community because there's a station a mile away that charges?
Because it's not traditional for, like, so again, I won't speak for the owners, but I'll just speak that from my history of doing this within communities and helping people out, a new gas station owner, they're not going to come in and just put the price at $3. They're not going to make a 50-cent difference, because that doesn't, you know, that's not just typically what happens. What will happen is everybody will come in and they'll find a point that works, okay, and then you'll get moderation in the market, and that's how it goes. And then people, again, it's going to be fixed on driving patterns. If you're driving by the station and previously you had to pass the All Town because you were going to say Brockton and you wanted to save 50 cents a gallon, well, you waited to Brockton to get your gas. And now all of a sudden you're gonna say, well, now I don't have to do that anymore. I can fill up in my own community and I'm not gonna just pass that gas station. So that's what it's really doing. It's capturing those people that live here that are saying that, you know, hey, I need to just save the extra money. I'm gonna try to do whatever I can. And then they're going out and they're, you know, trying to find these places to save it. They will capture that piece of it. You're not, again, if you live on the other side of Easton, you can drive to Brockton. You know, you can already go over there and get that. Those people are already doing that. They are not gonna come and drive across to the market to come over here. What's gonna happen is all of the people in this neighborhood along 495 in these communities over here are now gonna have another option that they can go to. And they're not gonna have to start trying to drive into all of these outside markets. You know, that's the advantage of this here, and that's where we'll, you know, you'd be able to see some opportunity in the market for the residents and stuff to save some money.
Okay. And as far as the traffic aspect of this goes, I know you I think, sir.
Patrick,
Yeah, Patrick, thank you. You talked about some of the expected increases in traffic with this facility. Did you measure what the traffic flow was with the convenience store?
Yes, that was a part of the establishing the existing conditions. We took turning moving counts at both driveways, so during peak hours we were able to identify exactly how the traffic is today.
Okay. And with that in mind then, how does the traffic study compare with the station as opposed to with just the existing variety store?
So, table 6, you can see the comparison between what we counted for the existing gas station, or the existing convenience store, sorry, and the proposed development with the expansions. And you can see that in the AM, it seems about 71 additional entering and exiting vehicles during that one peak hour, and additional 56 for the PM and Saturday. So there is increases there, but in terms of compared to that, it's about an additional trip per minute for those peak hours, which is not a very large addition. And we also ran analysis of both driveways and the intersection, and we found that the operations were not going to be impacted all that much, and that delays and level of service would also still be within existing conditions.
Okay. And with respect to the utilities, I understand you're going to be installing a new septic system. That design has not been presented to the Board of Health yet?
No, we haven't gone that far because we wanted to start here first. But however, we've done the soil testing on the site. We know that the site can have a new septic system sited on it. We know exactly where it's going on the plan, and it would be a state-of-the-art system. So that's also another environmental improvement for this development. It would get a new septic system.
What's the age of the current septic system?
Yeah, it was installed in the 1990s sometime.
Okay. And what's the typical life of a septic system that was installed?
Usually, if it's maintained well, it could go past 25, 30 years. We designed a site at the Foundry and Turnpike, which is an office building, 480 Turnpike. I personally did the septic system design, knock on wood. It's been there for almost 25 years, and I can tell you the owner has never had a problem because they always pump the system and maintain it. So I can see and know, as of coming to know AJ and Acta, I'm sure that they will be protecting their system by making sure that the maintenance on that septic system in the future is maintained on an ongoing basis.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
With respect to the neighborhood character, is it safe to say that the way you're designing the store with the landscaping, the architecture, is meant to address whatever concerns the neighbors have in terms of how it's going to affect their property
If I may.
and their
Yeah,
lifestyles?
so if I may, through the chair. So when we were first approached by AJ and Acta about taking on this project, we looked at what the abutters had to say in the previous application. And we came up with the idea of having this type of a design. We discussed this very, very early on, and it's a design that is in tune with the neighborhood. It's a residential style looking building. We even said, hey, let's not have a flat roof canopy. Let's not make this look like a Cumberland Farms or a mobile station. Let's continue to make this a neighborhood community store. So, you know, we discussed this with AJ and Hector. They liked the idea. They gave us some other examples of other stores that they've seen and know of. We discussed it with the architect, and we came up with a design that's in line with the architecture of the neighborhood. It's Cape Cod looking. It's got faux dormers and windows that look like it's a home. It doesn't look like your typical convenience store and a gas station. So we made that a paramount part of this application. In our site design, I keep on going back and forth. So if we look at our site design, the building is further back. We've increased the landscaping. Let me get to that one. Thank you. We've increased the landscaping out front. There's a huge amount of pavement here. There's storm water that's not being treated. We're capturing storm water from Foundry and Highland Street right now that's coming into our site. So in the proposed development, we're reducing the amount of runoff. We're increasing the landscaping on the front, as Tracy talked about, with these low impact development type of design with the stormwater and protection to the environment. This is such an increased protection on the environment in itself based on the existing conditions. Because right now, there's no TSS removal, total suspended solid removal. There's an older septic system. There's no stormwater drainage, detaining the drainage on site. We're proposing that now. We're reducing the amount of water that's going into the town system that's in the street. So there's plenty of things that we've looked at as part of this project to make it go in tune with the neighborhood and also meet all of the local and state regulations as it relates to septic system, stormwater, groundwater protection, zone 2 protection, and the aquifer protection.
Okay, I'm glad you brought up aquifer protection. So the new plan has the underground tanks situated outside the aquifer protection area, correct?
Yes, sir.
And how many feet away are the tanks from that border where the aquifer begins?
I didn't bring the scale with me, but as you can see, I'm going to point to the plan.
Yeah, I mean, if
so you can see the aquifer protection is this line here. So the tanks are all the way over here. So they're well outside of the aquifer protection. And as we talked about our site plan, in regards to the stormwater system, so if, God forbid, if Hussein's design and all of those safety and measures failed, we also have another way of protecting the environment by capturing any of that spill before it gets into the ground with those water quality structures and the containment systems that we have in place.
Okay, so maybe you can explain then. If let's just say one of those, how many underground tanks are there? 1 or 2, 3?
Two.
Tanks. So let's just say one is completely full, and then it starts leaking. Can you explain what measures there are in place to capture all the fuel that would be coming out of that leaking tank?
So the tanks that are being proposed, they've been in the industry for 30 some odd years. There haven't been any documented leaks for underground storage tanks that are double wall fiberglass. They're pretty solid. We do a lot of work in New Hampshire DES came up with a study where they looked at tanks for the last 20 years, and there have been no leaking UST, so underground storage tanks, in New Hampshire. A lot of the issues are above the surface. So you want to try to handle any spills that would be above the surface. So that's what we're designing. So any spills in this area would come into the trench drain, into your oil water separator, and be kind of contained there.
There's overfill protection, right, on the tank, so that is.
There's overfill protection on the tank when the fuel is being dropped into the tank. The tanks are, there's kind of like when you're filling your car, if the only way you can overfill is you keep, put your cap on it and just keep going, right? But with the tanks, the 15,000 gallon tanks, there's an overfill protection. So there's no way that the fuel delivery driver would overfill the tank if they're, following procedures. State mandates 95%, so the 95% of the volume of the tank is what can be in the tank, right? So you can't overfill it to 98%. So of the 15,000 gallon tank, 95% of the fuel would be in that tank. There's other measures too. There's another overfill alarm that can be implemented in this site where that limits it at 90%. So that 90%, it's an actual audible and visible alarm. If it goes over the 90, it's going to start, going off, and the fuel drop, the fuel drop would have to stop at that moment.
And this aquifer is the source for some of the town's drinking water, is it not?
I'm not sure they would.
The aquifer is the source of the town's drinking water, I would say, yes.
It's one of the sources. And I just tried to scale the plan through the chair. It's about 108 feet from the Aquifer Protection District to where we're proposing the underground tanks.
Okay. And at one earlier, you had displayed some of the other fuel stations and made some commentary on how close they are to aquifers and groundwater. And are you suggesting that because these other places might not be ideal, that we shouldn't be considering some of these environmental concerns?
No, not at all, Mr. Chairman. What we were trying to do is represent that there are other existing gas stations that are permitted in sensitive areas. That's all.
And I guess lastly, the potential fiscal impact. How does the town benefit fiscally from if we were to approve this project?
So I know from personal experience that if you introduce more commercial tenants to a property, that would drive the property taxes up. And I think you had also discussed too how the taxes can increase with the amount that was being invested into the property. You went off the slide too.
So I mean, just and just tax base. I mean, you're going to have new development there, so you're going to have the tanks and all the costs of that. Plus, you're going to have the building and everything. So there's just a core increase in the tax base. But then there's also, from the tax revenues itself, you have we don't think about the road tax, okay, the gas tax that's on it. People will say, oh, that goes to the state. Well, let's think about this here. That might go to the state, but you guys have state roads here. You have funding that gas tax actually can come back to and help out with and stuff. So there are other areas where, you'll be able to generate tax revenues through here that, kind of feed back into the community, through other coffers and stuff like that. So, it's hard to quantify, the total impact of, everything from a tax perspective, but, there are, some directs from just tax gases and just from, changes in property value.
And I think the tax assessor is going to, if it is approved, we've got a brand new building, a brand new gas station. I'm sure that they're going to assess it based on, what the new value of this convenience store and gas station is. I don't know if Hector and AJ have an idea of what kind of taxes they're paying right now on the existing building.
That's okay if you don't.
If you don't,
That's okay, yeah.
it's okay. But they've been paying taxes for the last 25 years.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions at the moment.
Thank you.
All right. You want to get another one?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I noticed in the site plan, there were no designated parking spaces, or I couldn't see them.
They're on there.
It might have been the grading and drainage plan, because we generally
Yeah,
have the striping off
yeah,
on that sheet
yeah.
to make it clearer. But on the layout plan,
And
there are.
how many are there and how many are required?
14 are there and 14 are required. We actually originally had proposed more, and the land use planner recommended that we only show the amount that are required.
Yes.
To reduce the amount of pavement.
They wanted more landscaping instead of parking.
So we took that into account.
Yes.
And also, if I may, through Mr. Chairman, we also did add to our site plan, I'm gonna get to the landscaping plan, I think that is, something that's probably important to some people here. So, as we're proposing a gas station and convenience store, but we also have 2 spaces in this area here that are designated for EV charging stations for 2 vehicles.
So there's gonna be 14 spaces altogether? What's, off the top of my head, I'm not sure what the requirements are. How many parking spaces per commercial for use is required and for retail?
And we had it on our other site plans, but
Yeah.
we cropped it here. But I know that
We
through
are
our
meeting them.
discussions with the planning board, and department head, the planning director, we had more parking spaces, and I think we took away 4 or 5.
Yeah. So we are meeting the minimum.
We did, and
We
the
aren't
ones
here
that
for a
we-
variance for the minimum, otherwise we would have to seek that relief from you.
The ones we took away were the ones along the roadway
Yes.
frontage.
Yes.
and
Yeah, we
that's
had-
where
We wanted more
it.
land.
Yeah, we had
I know
more
there's
here.
none designated on the site now.
Oh, yes, yes.
Right, but here, there would be parking striping, there would be, islands around the building, there would be the bumpers in front of the sidewalk to protect the pedestrians who are on the sidewalk. That's a planning board requirement. So we're already thinking of the things that the planning board would be asking of us, the Board of Health would be asking of us, as well as the Conservation Commission. So we know after we leave here, God willing, you would grant. If you did grant and approve, then we know we've got, 3 other stops to go.
So for gas station retail, it's 1 space per 500 square feet. And
Per-
office
per-
space is 1 per 500 as well.
So you would need, what, total of 5,000 square feet?
No, 2860
It's upstairs.
was upstairs. And
And
then,
it's gotta be at least that downstairs.
yes. I can't zoom into the
There we
plan.
go.
So we've got,
8 spaces for the gas station retail, because it comes to 3,907 square feet total. And the 2860 office comes out to 5.7, so 6 spaces.
because it's small, it's just a little bit smaller on the 2nd floor.
I'd say 6. So you need 6 upstairs and
8
8
for the
downstairs.
gas station and convenience. And that's not counting a car at each pump.
Right.
Separate by itself.
And you showed 3 pumps with, so
Yeah,
you
so we
service
had
6
6
cars.
cars could be parked. If they all parked the right way.
Or 2 big trucks.
Right, 2 big trucks. And then the other thing that I want to make clear is, yes, we have a diesel truck coming here to bring the fuel. However, this is not going to be a diesel truck fueling station.
Right.
It actually would be prohibited. This would be if someone has a diesel truck like I do, a GMC diesel, or someone who has a landscaping business and has a diesel truck and is pulling a small trailer, they would be allowed to come. But the tractor trailer trucks, the WB67s or the WB50s, would not be allowed here and be prohibited. Mr. Chairman.
You're all satisfied there? Okay. I think, Ms. Duar, you were the one going over this as far as stormwater management. I just want to get a better understanding of what stormwater management is, and then as far as if someone can explain to me what these water fuel separators are they powered systems? If they are powered systems, how are they affected by power loss, et cetera? And could you explode that to presentation view so it's a bit bigger?
just getting to that. So currently on site, there's one catch basin at the front of the site, kind of near where the existing sign is.
Yeah.
That is actually in an easement with the town, and that discharges right to a drain manhole in the street. That catch basin is catching all the stormwater runoff from the site now, as well as some from Boundary Street is going in one entrance, and some stormwater from Highland Street is actually coming into the site and getting its way into that catch basin. You'll notice that it's been a lot of rainstorms recently, so it's receiving no treatment whatsoever. And that's the streets runoff as well as the one from the site. So what we're proposing to do, so there's a few different stormwater locations. So we have this back rain garden. So that's going to accept stormwater runoff just from the back parking area, and the roof runoff we can send there too. That is going to infiltrate stormwater runoff. So that's a requirement of the DEP, is that you have to recharge. So you have to send back water into the ground. So right now that's not happening.
Where is all of it going? Is it flowing out towards Highland Street? Is it?
It's all going into
It's
that
all
catch
going
basin,
out there.
and it's just getting piped. So nothing's infiltrating.
Which goes into Highland Street.
Right.
Yeah. So this rain garden is going to be designed to infiltrate that back parking lot and the roof runoff. And the
No.
roof is not metal, so it doesn't have to get special treatment.
So as far as that rain garden,
Yeah.
how is that monitored? How do you know it's working properly? How is it maintained?
Yeah, so any new drainage design, we have to do an operation and maintenance plan and a long-term pollution prevention plan. So when we submit it to the town, we have to submit those. They'll get reviewed by the peer reviewer, but a lot of towns are actually requiring that we have to submit our report. So they have the list in there of the monthly, quarterly, and annual inspections, what they cost, you know, what they entail. And then, so the owner's gonna have to be responsible for doing them, but a lot of towns are actually enforcing them now and requiring that those inspections get sent to them so that they know they're getting done.
Okay.
So that can be a condition.
Sure.
The smaller green catchment area is similar, a small rain garden to capture this portion of the parking lot, and that'll infiltrate. So we're getting a lot of recharge on site. The only portion of the site that's not getting infiltrated is the catchment area that encompasses the fuel storage and the fuel dispensing area. So you can see just that purple area, that's all that's gonna go now to the town.
And
runoff,
that's all
where the
just
whole
that's
site
just
goes
all being handled by grading and sloping.
grading and sloping,
Yes.
yep. So you're, right here is a high point,
Yeah.
and you're gonna have one right here
Yeah.
and right here.
Gotcha.
Yep, so we have some fine grading with spot grades to make it really clear, but we'll have watershed maps when we submit to the planning board. So that front purple catchment area that catches that, we're proposing a trench drain at the front of the site, so that's gonna stop any runoff from getting into the street. And that trench drain is gonna discharge to, there's a offline oil water separator. So what that does is it allows stormwater, especially if there's a spill or a high flow event, to go into it. It's almost like a septic tank. And it's storage and it's treatment to a certain volume. And then it'll overflow, and we're gonna tie into the, where the catch basin is now on site, we're gonna replace it with a manhole. All right, so there is a chance that if all those measures that Hussein had talked about failed, that we can still capture the stormwater, if there's a spill, and get it pumped out before it ever makes its way into the municipal system.
No.
But that purple area, that's all that's gonna go to the municipal system now, where the whole site does.
So it's really a backup to what Hussein is gonna implement.
Right. So, but that tank is that a tight tank? What is that? Because if that's
It's almost like a tight tank, but it's part of the stormwater system that's gonna be part of the operation maintenance plan, so someone's gonna have to come inspect it, look the lid, pump it out if there's anything in it.
okay.
What is the paved area?
Square footage,
Square footage?
I can't tell you, the whole site disturbance is over an acre.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a 1.6 acre lot, so.
And then Hussein, you were talking about the vapor type systems. So is that the newer type of fuel systems where they're hooking up for delivery of the fuel, and then they're also hooking up a hose for extracting the vapor? How does that work? And because reading the reports from a lot of the community members, very concerned about the smell of gas station. So how is that handled, and how effective is it?
So, Brian, if you can go back to that one that shows the tank, please. So this is your double wall system. There would be two of these tanks. So there's two tanks physically, but there would be three total compartments. So one of these tanks would be split in half. So here's your tank containment sump. There's the STP, which is the pump that feeds the product to the dispensers. There's a tank level monitor. I didn't get into that, but there's a tank level monitor that monitors the level of the tank. If there's any, drastic fluctuations, the alarm will go off in the store. But during the fuel delivery to the tank, there's a fill, there's a riser with the overfill protection valve in here. This is a spill bucket that contains a 5-gallon spill. So as they're hooking up, if there's any spill, it's contained in the bucket. Then there's a vapor connection. So the driver would pull up, connect into this spill bucket, and also connect his vapor into this. So as this tank is filling up, the vapors need somewhere to go. There's a vent connection as well into it wouldn't be at the building, but there's a vent riser that's needed as well. But the vapors, as he's filling, come back into the truck. As you might recall, years ago, the nozzles were kind of large nozzles, and they had vapor recovery built into the nozzle as you're fueling. The current nozzles do not have that. It's built into the car currently for the vapor, but for the fuel delivery, this is your bulk of the fuel delivery, right? Someone coming in. So that whole system, this is a 4-inch riser. This is a 4-inch riser, and basically California came up with this. It's CARB, C-A-R-B. California Air Resource Board came up with this design in California. Mass adopted the CARB EVR system as well. So in the past, when the vapor connection would be made to these buckets, there was no way to ensure that the vapors were going to stay inside of the hoses. There was, as you can imagine, if you have a 4-inch riser and you put another pipe in between it, there's that little gap. So that gap, EVR kind of takes that gap and kind of recovers that vapor. And at this point, again, all the manufacturers make EVR compliant PV caps, pressure vent caps, that are placed on top of the gas risers. So that limits the amount of vapors that kind of go into the atmosphere. Other states do not mandate the EVR. So Mass, is good by mandating the EVR.
Now you had mentioned there was one riser that checks the tank level, and if it changes drastically, an alarm goes off. Is it an alarm just says, "Oh shit, we're contaminating the area," or like how does it? What else is it doing?
There's an alarm that goes off. It would say that there's a fluctuation in your tank volume. They would have to have. I think we submitted. It wasn't part of this package, but we did submit a fuel system memo. There's a procedure that needs. You would have to call the state fire, police, local fire. I can pass it out, but there's a list of individuals that would need to be contacted. And if it is the tank, which again, these tanks are way better than double wall steel tanks and single wall fiberglass tanks. And again, if there is an issue, they would have to address it within 24 hours. And again, these are containment sumps. They also have sensors inside of those. So the product piping, in this instance, this is showing just fiberglass piping, but we would have the double wall piping that goes into the sump. And again, everything's designed to slope back into the tank sump or into a monitored dispenser sump. And again, that alarm would go off as well. And as I mentioned, this shows an overflow protection valve. It's a mechanical valve, and it restricts the flow at 95%. If the board of the town would be happier with a 90%, the 90% would have an alarm, kind of like this little alarm here, that would go off if the tank delivery driver tries to fill more than 90% into the tank.
Okay. Ms. Correa, how many single-family homes are within 300 foot of the gas station?
I have that here. Hold on just a moment. I don't have the number off the top of my head. I can get that for you, though, if you give me a moment.
Okay.
They might know. I do have that. One moment. have that here.
And,
Is there
and I'll
anything
tell
else I can
and I'll
answer?
tell you the reason why I'm asking
Yeah,
is
sure, that's fine.
FHA financing won't finance a purchase of a residential home within 300 foot of a gas station. So, my concern would be the neighbors within 300 foot, if they go to sell at some point in time, losing a portion of the market because FHA financing wouldn't be something that'd be available.
Okay. Of course, I can't find it right now, but I know that there were several abutters that were notified. And if they want to answer, that's fine, but I can't find it at the moment. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm sure
but I'm
I'm
not
sure you'll
a-
get it to Suzanne.
Yes, I will, but I'm not aware that there are actually financing companies that would not.
Well,
provide-
FHA, so the Federal
Oh, okay.
Housing Administration.
Oh,
So
okay.
they will not finance purchase of a home within 300 foot of a gas station.
Okay.
FHA, VA, same thing. So, I just want to make sure that in something like this that we have, when we're talking about economic impacts, and we can't really quantify taxes as an economic impact, but we can, economic impact to homeowners who are trying to sell down the line. And they potentially lose out on potential buyers who can't get financed.
Okay,
So that's what I would want to understand.
okay. I'll get that information for you.
All right. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you.
All right. So I want to go over it real quick. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take questions from the audience. Now, the way it's going to work, raise your hand. I will call on you. You'll come up, speak clearly, announce your name, announce your address. I will let you know when I got my timer ready for 3 minutes, just so we give everyone respect that everyone who wants to speak has a chance to. Understand that you're addressing me. You are not addressing the applicant, so we don't need any name saying, finger pointing, these guys, those gals. You're addressing me, okay? And if you have a question, you're not asking the question to them directly. You're asking the question to me, and I will address the question to the applicant. So we clear on that? Okay. So now, who wants to be the first? Sir, you're number one. You need to stand up. You need to stand up.
David Conrad, 110
Yep. Hold on. All right.
My
Well,
question is,
Suzanne, did you get that?
No.
All right.
David Conrad, 110 Highland Street. My question is the rain garden in the aquifer protection area? It is not.
Ms. Duarte.
Yeah, the rear rain garden is within the aquifer protection district. No stormwater runoff, except for the rear parking area is going into that rain garden.
But there is runoff from the rear parking area into the aquifer, into the rain garden, correct?
And yes, and the rear parking area is also in the aquifer protection district.
That's my question.
Okay. Sir.
Yeah, my name's Alan Weeks, I live at 10 Michael Drive. I had one of the presentations, and I was asked to do that at the beginning of the meeting, if that's okay. If you're
Well,
set up.
what we'll do is you'll have the opportunity. We want to make sure that while the applicants are here and all the applicants' experts, that the public has a chance to ask questions of them. You'll have your opportunity once these folks are done, and you'll be up after that.
Okay, so you want to delay the presentations from the abutters and neighbors?
We want to make sure, because what we don't want to do is go through all the presentations and folks are trying to, oh, well, what was it that Ms. Correa said? And, we just want to make sure that while they're here, and it'll be the same thing when you present, everyone's going to ask their questions, and then once that's all set, then we'll move on to the next presenter.
Okay.
All right?
So,
Ma'am?
Nancy Hauk, 100 Highland Street. Because I know that the presenters will be covering, oh, sorry.
That's good.
Because I know that the presenters will be covering a lot of different issues.
Mhm.
Really minor, simple thing, I'm not an engineer, but your plan, where it says Highland Street is 50 feet wide, it's actually 24 feet wide, and I measured it with my tape measure. So,
If I
simple
may,
question.
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
please.
So when we label the plans, it's based on survey and record information. We're saying it's 50 feet layout, meaning from the right-of-way from one side to the other. The pavement width might be 24 or 20 feet inside that, but that is not the layout of the roadway.
So just to follow up, a truck, a fuel truck, or those landscape vehicles that are getting their diesel fuel, taking that corner at 24-foot width, pretty risky, I think.
Sir?
Mr. Chairman, through the chair, we did the truck turning template, so we can see that the trucks, the fire trucks and the delivery trucks can safely enter the site and exit the site and get into the right lane in a safe distance to the intersection. So if we're showing that a truck can do it, that's 67 feet long, a diesel pickup with a trailer can easily make that in and out of the site very safely.
So just a follow up on that. So obviously, PE has to PE stamps that plan, so they have to. So Ms. Duarte, I believe you stamped it. So PE stamps that plan. That person's obviously covered by insurance and as putting their license at risk if they're wrong.
That is correct.
Yeah. All right. So that's just want to make sure. In the end, that's where we have licensing.
I get it.
So.
I don't believe it.
All right, sir.
Brian McKenna, 15 Heidi Road, to the traffic study. It appeared that there were peak times where it was evaluated, AM and PM. What about the other 10 hours of the day that they're going to be open?
Yeah.
I would bet that would add somewhere in the range of 30 to 50% more vehicular traffic, which in an average week was almost 1,300 cars.
Yeah, I'm going to let Mr. Bradley answer that, but I'm going to. They're on the traffic engineers. They have basic models that they follow from National Highway Safety, NHTSA, or whatever. But so they have certain models because you obviously can't model everything. So they boil it down to what are fairly standard models, so that whenever they're evaluating consistently. But I'll let Mr. Bradley.
So you pretty much hit the nail on the head there. So basically, what we do analyze the peak hours in the AM and the PM. We do counts for over 2 hours. So in the AM, it's 7 to 9 in the morning, and PM, it's 4 to 6. And those are the hours that we expect there to be the most traffic, and those would have the most impact on the site. So we analyze those hours, and in order to get kind of a worst case scenario of how the site would interact with that volume of traffic. And through our study, we found that there would be very little impact based on those hours, and the other 10 hours of the day would be lower volume of vehicles, so there would be even less impacts than that.
No, we'll follow up.
Question?
Yep.
So I don't like the cookie cutter approach, but I'll go with it. So another presenter said it's a state road, and it is a state road, so it doesn't fit your cookie cutter model, because a lot of Rhode Island residents take 495 to 123 and cut up to try to pick up 24. So the peak is not necessarily 2 hours in the AM and 2 hours in the PM. It is all day long. There's constant traffic there, so I dispute the 1,300 cars per week.
I mean, that's fine. You can certainly dispute it. In the end, engineering systems have models, and they follow the models. I mean, that's whether it's a gas station, whether we did a traffic study for the dog kennel on Washington Street, where they're following the same principles. It's the only way they have to have consistency. Sure, there are going to be variations. Of course, there are going to be variations, but they need to have some stability in their modeling so they can compare one site versus another. And for gas stations of certain sizes, they have certain models they follow. For certain size roads, they have certain, and then you also did traffic counts and all that other sort of stuff. So, the numbers they're basing that on are based on physical road traffic over certain periods of time, and those are all time stamped, if I'm correct.
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
Yeah. So they are in those numbers they're doing. I mean, unless they're unless they ran their numbers during COVID when no one was going out, it is physical time stamped with numbers, and that's all we can go off of. Other than that, it's all guesswork, right?
Great.
Yeah.
We're going to go off guesswork.
I'm not saying it was off of guesswork. It was off of physical numbers. They have to have something to go off of. You were next.
So I have a few things.
So first, name and address.
Diane Hart to Michael Goddard. One is, like you said, the peak. Well, as you know, they're building 80 new houses on Highland Street. And Target is getting like 300 new houses. So the traffic is going to add to that immensely, and the people stopping their gas. Two, I have to look at you because I want to look at someone else. They keep saying the community. We are the people who live there. We are here. And no one asked us. And so we are the community. And I know I have more to say about that. Number three, the numbers they got, 500, 250 being, well, they've been working on this for I don't know how long. We've just found about this recently. You want me to go get 500 more signatures? I can go get 500 more signatures for people who live here. So people, like, I'd love to know if the 258 are people who live in Northeastern, or the people who live in they have to live in Easton, she said. So where do they live? Because where I live, where my kids grow up, and where all these people over here, kids grow up, that's who matters, not the people who live across there or anywhere else. So I hope and pray that you're listening to the people who live.
Yep, we take everybody's input.
And as far as the design, I don't know if whoever designed it looked at our community or our neighborhood or whatever. The Northeastern Saving Banks, that's our community. That design, that building that they have is beautiful. It doesn't look to me like it belongs in our community at all. Not that people care about that, but I care about it when I drive around the corner all the time. And again, the litter and all that, the way it's taken care of, how do we know it's gonna change? I mean, walking down, I live Michael Drive, which is the next street down, and it's been awful, the litter. I mean, it's gotten a little bit better. Joe, your girls used to go and clean up that litter all the time.
Yeah, sure.
So that's a huge matter to us too. So I have more to say, but my time's probably up. I can't even think of what it is.
It's okay.
I do appreciate you.
As far as, I just want to make sure I comment on the other development. We could really say that about any business, that over time towns develop, we have higher density. We can't forecast too far. We know about that stuff now. We have an idea. Engineering, you say if there's going to be 300 apartments, how many bedrooms, they can come up with numbers. So what I would ask is, could you go back and run those numbers with the additional apartment complexes and housing units that are proposed there based on single family, or how many? Do we have that handy? We could probably get them that information. Yeah, that they could update the model.
I thought about what you're talking.
Sure.
The traffic, it's already dangerous coming in and out of there. When they had no trucks or whatever.
No.
They put a street light up there when they were doing the work. And at first I'm thinking, I don't really like this. But now I'm like, I can't even get across the street to go down from my end of Island to the other. And I can't get out to go left to Target or whatever. So the traffic is horrendous already. Never mind when this is going to happen.
Okay. All right, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes.
So my name is Verna Ann Howard-Chensky. I live at 104 Highland Street. I'm a scientist. I'm a pharmacologist biochemist. So my question refers to response time for the spill. So they can take, if I'm not mistaken, they said 24 hours. Do you know how much gas can go into the aquifer within 24 hours? History of water is not good. We had trouble with PFAS and things of that nature. So I know we're looking about revenue for the town, but we can drive down the street to get gas to clean the water supply that people are drinking. And specifically, there's benzene, which is a known carcinogen. And so we want to expose the children and the people in the town, where we can go just down the street for gas. Why risk that? And we have to maintain the system. There's erosion, there's all kinds of environmental factors, and it's troubling to me that the water department didn't even take a look at it. Thank you.
Actually, you had your hand up first.
Robert White. I live at 618 Foundry Street. So, question about the safety and detection system you were going over. So, the alarm system in the store, what happens when no one's in the store? An alarm goes off.
It's monitored 24 hours. So the system that would be installed would have their email, phone number, so it would kind of notify them, as well as, I believe, the fire department.
But how would that, is it through phone lines, or what's the communication mechanism from the store to wherever's monitoring this?
We'd have to look into that exactly, but it's usually during the store hours, there's an attendant on call. I don't know how you can address this
So
other stuff.
when we close the store, all the fuel system are shut off. No one can pump any fuel out of the tanks.
And is the alarm continuous
Yeah,
until
that's
it's shut
continuous,
off?
but there is no one fueling after store hours.
But there's a leak on the ground.
So the alarm that comes right to me, my wife, and every.
While you're sleeping?
We get alarm calls.
Again,
Just
talk
fire
about
alarms
you
everywhere.
You can address it.
Yeah. Like there was a water leak a couple days ago. Fire department was there at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was awake.
And so does the system have a battery backup for power outages, which is a frequent event in this town?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know the answer to that.
So-
And yes, we do lose power a lot, because
Would you have a generator?
my neighborhood's always out.
So, yeah, there would be a generator on site.
Okay.
Right, and also, I'm one of the abutters, so I'm part of the community.
Mhm.
I don't mind having a convenience store there, I think it fits in relatively well, but I'm totally against a gas station. I think that doesn't help the community, we are the community. I think it actually belittles and debases the community by having a gas station there. I don't think it enhances our neighborhood.
All right, thank you. All right, sir, you're up.
Yeah, Greg Hart, 2 Michael Drive, 37 years there. Seen a lot. I'm sure there's people that have been there longer. I know there's several here tonight, by the way. But a couple things. Brian mentioned it a little bit earlier. The traffic flow, regardless of what the surveys show. Okay, the traffic flow on 123 from 495, it's actually really from Norton, if you think about it. That traffic flow down 123 to 106, okay. There's no gas stations on that entire stretch. You have to go all the way to the center of Norton for a gas station. And I know because I've been looking for one for years, and there isn't one other than 5 corners. But I also see and I audited the town of Easton back in the 90s. Our firm did. I was a lead partner on the job. I worked with the water department among other town departments. And when they were trying to build the gas station / car wash where the Northeastern Savings Bank is now, we were in this room having the same conversation, and one of the senior members of we'll say town officials said to me, because I knew him from my work with the town, he said they'll never have a gas station in this end of town. Because they know that it sits on top, any gas station on these intersections here would sit on top of the aquifer, and that would make no sense whatsoever. That was 25 years ago. Okay, since then, we had the 2019 proposal. I read not all of you guys, but I read the report from this committee at that time. And other than, a great looking building, regardless of what my wife says, but I think it's a pretty good building. But other than that, and yeah, I'd love to have a nice variety store there.
No, you had a minute.
We'd all love to see that property improved, because frankly, it has not been particularly attractive. Probably hasn't done a heck of a lot for our property values either. But as one of the other gentlemen said, and you just informed me about the FHA, which scares the crap out of me. But the point is, all that aside, putting a gas station, and I don't care what you say, 108 feet is on top of the aquifer. And by the way, is it Red Brook Road is where the wells are, which are right downstream from where that intersection is, which is currently getting a multi-million-dollar facility to clean up the PFAS problem we have in town, at least one of the facilities. So anyway, the idea that I have to drive for the last 37 years 1.2 miles to 5 corners kind of overshadows this whole issue of putting a gas station on top of an aquifer.
Standing, sir.
Yep, Jim Murphy, 103 Highland, almost 300 foot of butter. My question is to you, Ryan, kind of. They have all kinds of plans for drainage and everything. We don't even have a septic plan, and I think the current one is already 3 feet high. So that whole plot will probably have to be raised 3 feet. Have you guys taken that into consideration at all, or?
And we can only consider what we have presented in front of us right now.
Right, but I think that's a critical point.
I mean,
The Department of Public Health needs to be in on this to let us know what's going on.
So is there a septic plan that's been designed?
No.
The septic has been sized, the test pits have been witnessed by the Board of Health, but typically the zoning board is the first step in the permitting
Yeah, no, I
process. So you typically don't do 100% design. Have the test pits been witnessed by the Board of Health? Yes. Have the system been sized so that it's located on the plan in correct setbacks to drainage and building and else? Yes. Has the grading that's shown on the grading plan that we have shown meet the Title V and the cover over the system?
Okay.
So you can see on the grading plan, it goes up a couple feet here. Groundwater everywhere in New England is high. It was brought up at the what's it called, design review meeting with all the boards. Somebody questioned the amount of fill and if it would impact site distance, and our traffic engineer is going to do a profile when the final grading is 100% done to show that any mounding is not going to impact your site distance as you're going on.
And what I will add on that one is, regardless of what the height is of the septic system, by law, they're required to contain all water on their own site. They can't allow water to run off the site.
Right, but if you're raising a site by 3 feet, I mean, you're talking traffic going in and out of there, that adds another element to it. Just
Right now, we don't know what that height is gonna be. All we know right now is they've done that engineering, and as far as, containment of water on the site, that by law, they have to contain the water on the site. So if that becomes an engineering challenge for them, I guess Ms. Duarte will take out her slide rule and show off.
And if we still have to file with the planning board in the 300 feet of butter, they'll still be notified again. So, and at that time, it's also going to go through peer review, so another engineer is going to be reviewing it.
Right.
So you'll have another chance.
All right. And Mr. Chairman, one point of order in regards to the abutters' concerns about gas stations not being allowed in the Aquifer Protection District. That's absolutely true. However, only part of our site is in the Aquifer Protection District. And hold on a second, Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yeah, come on, folks. Go ahead.
And where the fuel storage is being proposed is outside of the Aquifer Protection District. So therefore, it is an allowed use on this property.
Okay. Great. Just say I wanted to make sure he had his hand up first.
Frederick Halk, 100 Highland Street. Is MLB in receipt of a communication from Ms. Carlino that 96 Highland Street is indeed a wetland?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, please.
We have had several discussions with Jennifer, and we've had multiple visits by our botanist to the site. However, since it's an abutting property, we have no authorization to enter the property. We can only look at the property from the roadway, and that's what we have done. We cannot flag any wetlands. However, our botanist has gone out there at least 2 times that I know of, and recently is last Friday, and has witnessed an area of flooding. So he thinks that it might have some wetland characteristics or forested wetland. However, the only way to prove that is if we do some soil testing by auger and he has access to the property. However, he does think that it is what we would call isolated land subject to flooding, which if you look at the roadways and what Tracy and I have been talking about, a lot of this area is taking storm water from the street and entering it into some of these abutting properties. So that's what you see happening across the street from us. If that is the case, and it is isolated land subject to flooding, under the Wetland Protection Act and the local wetland bylaw, it is a protectable resource, and we would have to file with the Conservation Commission a notice of intent to prove our case in regards to protection of that area. And based on what we've designed already so far, we know that we would be in compliance with the protection of that resource area, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. All right. Oh, yeah, you had a follow-up. You have a minute left.
Actually, it's a vernal pool.
If I may, Mr.
Well,
Chairman.
What that would require is 100.
Well, so hold on. Whether it's a area subject to flooding, vernal pool, I'm going to let the folks who qualify with the licenses to designate that. So I'm going to drop that one right there because but we would need someone who's licensed to designate that, that land to do that. So I don't want to take hearsay right now.
It's actually on the state map.
That's great, and that would be their job if it came to that.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, right.
It is designated as a potential vernal pool.
Yeah.
It has not been certified as a vernal pool. However, our botanists cannot access the property to do the proper study to identify. However, the protection of the isolated land subject to flooding is something that we would handle, filing a notice of intent and working with Jennifer and the Conservation Commission here locally, Mr. Chairman.
Ma'am, I saw you had your hand up.
Olivia Phelps, I live at 96 Highland Street. I'm a registered nurse. There was a study published in California that said that residents should live 500 feet away from gasoline or fill stations due to the carcinogens because it's an increased risk for cancer. So it's just, I noticed that there was no public health thoughts brought up in any of this about the health risks of living close to gas stations. So just as a nurse, that was a huge risk for me to see if thing was even brought to our attention.
Okay, so just a quick second, because last time, so typically you get one bite at the apple, but because you were asking if you're going to have your chance to do your presentation, yes. So this will be a question geared towards this. So you're recognized.
No, it's a different question.
Yep.
Alan Weeks, 10 Michael Drive. I just wanted to point out that the prohibited use in the zoning bylaw is for sale or storage. We've had a lot of discussion about storage tanks being outside of the aquifer. The site provides the commerce to facilitate the sale. The exit roadway goes through the aquifer. There's a rain garden, there's snow storage, there's a loading zone, there's dumpster. All that is required to facilitate the sale. So there is sale of fuel going on in the aquifer, and I submit to you that this is a prohibited use.
Yeah. Sir.
Tim Moore, 614 Boundary Street. I'm curious as to when was the traffic study done, and does that matter? Because my recollection is that it was pretty much done in the middle of the summer, so it might as well have been COVID, when no one's going up and down Boundary Street at 123. The school buses aren't running, it's not creating more of a hazard to the town, and frankly, the crosswalks there crossing over 123 are an absolute joke. No one stops them. The police can't stop anyone for doing it. They don't go up, they watch for 10 minutes and they leave, and the next minute you got a car blowing by you about to kill you at 70 miles an hour. So my question is when was the study done, and how does that impact their actual false numbers? Because if it was done during the summer, we're not getting an actual read of what the traffic patterns on Boundary Street are.
All right. Mr. Bradley, could you answer
Yeah,
that?
so I can answer that. So the counts were taken in July and August. But in this process, we also account for seasonal adjustments. So we take a look at the overall volume of traffic in the area over 1 year, and we see what the monthly variation is. And for this, we found that in July and August, they were actually higher volumes in those months than the overall volume of the year for monthly variations. So we didn't end up even adjusting for that because continuous count stations maintained by Mass DOT had stated that those areas had higher traffic during those months.
Just one more follow-up. You had mentioned the FHA loans for the financing of them. There's also insurance issues where the insurance companies do not want to carry homeowners insurance for properties that are within 300 feet of a commercial building, particularly gas stations.
Okay, that's news for me. Do we have any insurance agents in the room? All right. Nicely done. Nicely done. Okay. Hey, let's give him his moment in the sun, right? Okay, hold on.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, please.
I know that's not a question, but do you have a house that's within 300 feet of a gas station? And I as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Just to make that point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sir.
Yeah, Alan, I go 30 Highland Street. It seems like these folks don't even know whether they can build on the land if it's not environmentally feasible. Can they build on it? Why are we arguing about putting a gas station? They don't know whether they can build on it. Are we wasting our time?
Man,
really?
we're here no matter what. So,
I'm serious. If they can build on it, then we can argue about zoning it.
well, so in response to that is part of the process of them being able to do it is to go through the bylaws to see what they are allowed to do, not allowed to do, and what could be done with a special permit. And so they have to go through that process. They'll be in front of the zoning board here. They would have to go in front of the planning board, et cetera. So there's a process to it. So whether ultimately they can build or not, that's what they're investigating.
I think it's pretty obvious the community doesn't want it. I'd like to hear what the community has.
Well,
But
one person at a time. We don't need mob rule, please.
it's like we're spinning our wheels.
Okay. You've already had your one chance.
I had
so.
a question, I didn't have a chance.
Well, you were the first person recognized. Yeah. All right. Anybody else?
Well, he can have my chance.
Why doesn't he whisper his statement to you? Go ahead. Since no one else
The
has.
most important thing that hasn't been discussed here, this is a residential neighborhood. With a piece of commercial property within a residential neighborhood. Surrounded by houses, all three sides, and dozens more in a fairly close category. And, it will change the character of the neighborhood. And we're all the neighbors, okay? There's one piece of property. It's not like one house in a commercial neighborhood, in a commercial zone. It's one piece of property surrounded by residential. Okay, and that's important. My last piece is, in regards to the aquifer, there's plenty of protection, obviously, for leaks from a big tank. But there's no protection on the site for the couple of drops here, a couple of drops there. And the study in New York showed 1 gallon of gasoline would pollute 1.6 million gallons of water. Think about that. And every time somebody pulls that pump out and a couple of drops fall down, if they go into the aquifer, okay, and that builds up. We got problems on Red Mill Road with those town wells, okay? It's severe. We don't know where it came from, okay, but I can tell you, we're less than 2 miles from those Red Mill Road wells, and they're right on top of it. So I ask that the board, and its great wisdom, do what it did the last time and prevent this from happening. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am.
Do we have more time or no?
He sat down. He yielded.
Okay, I can have the rest of the time?
Well, he had finished, so we're moving on to the young lady over there. All right, hold on, everybody, please, so we can make sure we can hear her.
6 Micro Drive, and I'm a scientist. So I was working at the Environmental and Occupational Health Science Institute, and I started such as PM, particulate matter, volatile organic compounds, and polycyclic hydrocarbons, and heavy metals in air toxic hotspot. And the finding is that the main area for this pollution is the gas station and highway. So here in this community, it's not friendly. The gas station will bring daily hazard, like health hazard to everybody living close in our community. So this is confirmed by all the scientists and nurses here. It will cause cancer and a lot of disease. Also, we have neighbor, like very close, within 0.5 miles, there's 3 gas stations already. We don't need any more. So, as a protest not having this gas station. Thank you.
Okay, we all set on, ma'am?
Joan Daly, 87 Highland Street. So pretty much a downstream abutter of this proposed property. And when we built our home, we, came in front of this body to, build our home within this beautiful land. And there are animals. We've had 2 bear in our backyard. We've had bobcat. We have over 50 species of birds, including eagle, peregrine falcon, hawks, and it's just, I feel like the whole environmental system is being impacted by this, catastrophic potential development. And, as a neighbor, I visit the store a lot, Highland Variety. I used to. And I used to be able to walk the 1 mile from my house over to the store. And right now, I can't even drive out of my road to get across the way because both ways on the crosswalk, there's a speed limit of 40 miles an hour. And I can attest as a pedestrian trying to walk with my dogs and grandchildren in a stroller, that there is no safe access across the street to, some of the neighborhood amenities, stores, banks, parks, New Pond, the Wheaton Farm area, which are all within a half a mile of my home. So I would just ask you as a neighbor to please take our concerns into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Are we questioned out on this portion? Yes, sir.
Ronnie LaPette, 610 Foundry Street. Just, do we have a vote, and does our vote count? We have a lot of people here who are concerned, and we just want to make sure we're not wasting our time, because we had the pipe system that came in and had some different numbers and changes and all this kind of stuff, and we didn't want that to happen. We're here basically to let you guys know that we're very concerned about the gas station being there and what could happen to our environment.
Well, if I can answer your question, Mr. LaPette. So do you have vote? I mean, obviously being here, providing us feedback is a vote. Do you have a physical vote? No, the physical voters are the members of the board. But your vote is here asking questions and showing concern, obviously, and obviously that's our job as town servants to take that into account. Already had your chance.
Just real quick.
No, already had your chance. All right, so.
9 minutes. 9 minutes, Nancy.
All right, we're not going to be playing that game because we'll be doing that all night. So if we have nothing else, Ms. Gray, do you have any closing statements you want to make?
They have a presentation.
I know. I'm going to move on to the next, but I want to make sure that they're all set and then we finish up their portion.
Would we have an opportunity to speak after the presentations?
Yeah, so you would be able to provide comments as members of the public, but I'm going to probably have the same rules where you're going to have 1 bite at the apple, 3 minutes, as far as my iPhone says.
Okay, I think the only remark that I would like to make is I know that I keep hearing about community support, and I just want to, I guess, clarify how we obtained our signatures. The clients had the signatures at their store, so it's people who frequent the store, whether they live there or they work near there, but they are members of the community. We didn't go to the outskirts of the town to get signatures. So I just want to clarify that that's how our signatures were obtained, people that actually use the store all the time. I did want to make a note, although it's minute, that there was some discussion about the litter to the site. And in one of the oppositions, it was actually conceded that through the diligent efforts of the owners that has been abated. And I think, I don't want to take up any more, it's late, so.
Do you mind if I just say one more thing?
Sure, absolutely.
Just in regards to a few of the comments that you made, in regards to the neighborhood side of this and the environmental side, there's examples all over New England of neighborhood convenience stores that are built within residential communities. And they're built there to serve those communities. That's what they're there for. And we can travel all over the place and we can find those. And the same thing we can do is we can find convenience stores that have been built in environmentally sensitive areas. You know, this is what they've done for years, and it's because those are the spots where it best served the community, you know, at that time and stuff like that. So, you know, I don't want, you know, there's a lot of protections that are in place, you know, and processes that have been designed so that way, you know, stores that are being built like this are being built specifically to fit within these communities and stuff. So this isn't something that, you know, they're trying to do where nobody's ever built a gas station next to a neighborhood home or built a gas station next to a lake or a pond. I mean, you can go drive, most of you probably have boats. You want to fill up your boats, where do you fill up your boats? You fill it up right next to the water at a dispenser that they have right there, you know, at the lake. You know, so there's opportunities where you can do this stuff and do it where it's environmentally friendly and you're not having a direct impact on the people around you. I mean, we can go all over the area and find this stuff. So I appreciate like hearing these comments because, you know, it's something that, you know, I think there's a misconception sometimes that, you know, gas stations are just dirty, and they're not all dirty. People take a lot of pride in them. And, you know, your community members here do that too. So anyways, thank you.
Yeah.
And if I may, just to answer your question previously, I do have the tax abutters list that shows 12 parcels in the bank. There are vacant lands too as well. So I can't say that it is 12 homes, but there are 12 parcels that were notified plus the bank. And to his point too, I imagine a majority of this room drove gas-powered vehicles here today. I feel like when we look at certain commercial businesses, it's very easy to be fearful of them. But I think many of us, myself included, live right next to a gas station, and we can't account for everything. But I hope in our presentation we've done the work to be able to show it and show you that this is supported and this does meet the bylaws. Thank you.
All right. Nope, we're moving on from this one, and we're going to move on. So we have a couple more presentations, Mr. McKenna, Mr. Power, and Mr. Weeks.
Alan, you want to go first? However you'd like to do it. Yours is most impactful.
Okay.
You put it right here, yeah.
I don't want to touch your text.
So they're gonna need to stay.
Do they need James over here?
This is okay? I just wanted to show a little bit.
Yeah, so
And I want to turn on the light up here.
We put it on.
Oh, okay.
Are we going first?
I think so, yes. Mindful with the picture.
Sounds good.
Okay,
I
it's
will
hard
always
for me
here
to.
for some of that one.
This is interesting.
A little bit, but
Those were easy.
you're doing a great job. And as the
Yeah, we have
clerk,
three-
if you'd like me to keep the time, I'd be happy.
Oh yeah, if you want to do that, you can do the signaling.
Oh, this is you down here. I think that's it, right?
Sure.
I'm not sure about this.
I'm gonna give him
When I present, I'm gonna stand over there, would you, when I hit the slide, would you do that?
I can do that for you. If you want to come up here and sit. You sure? I'll be quick. Get all the time you need. Fine, it's getting late. That's up to the chair.
Well, so if they were to get,
I'm
if they
just
were to
a-
get further
a
down,
prisoner
because
just
they
like
are
you.
enough protection, they're gonna have to file
Who knows over there?
and do all that stuff. So that would come up. Yeah. Well, all right. Let's wrap it up. We're gonna move on to the next set of presentations, please. You're
You
the
all set?
lucky first one.
I am.
All right.
Let me figure out how to use this. Okay. Special permit criteria. I know you folks are very familiar with this, but for folks that came to watch this process, there are 6 very specific criteria that people have been talking about tonight, and you'll see them listed here. These need to be satisfied for the board to grant a special permit. And so I have some slides behind this, and I'm going to go through each one of these very briefly, and I'm going to highlight the decisions that were made in 2019 when this same project was proposed to some common members of the board, and then some new items that we've looked at as we've evaluated the new plans and whatnot. So, community needs served. This is the number one. You've heard it talked about. The prior ZBA finding, this was December 2019, additional gas stations not needed to meet community needs. That was their decision. 2 other gas stations exist 1.3 miles away. When we did a quick list of the tally of your petitioners that had submitted their names, we came up with 65% weren't from Easton, whether it was 200 and something out of 500, I don't know, but that was the number that we came up with in terms of community needs served. Next one. Traffic flow and safety. The prior finding stated that the safety risk exists due to increased traffic flow and large diesel trucks entering or exiting. We've heard that large trucks, the station's not designed for it, but there's really no mechanism, or at least I did not see a specific mechanism to stop them from pulling in and getting fuel. The traffic study, talked about a lot of numbers. The number I pulled out of the traffic study that was submitted was an additional 56 to 71 peak hour trips. It's about a 25% increase. So that's the number that I was getting. Now, those of you who have pulled out of Highland, I've pulled out of Highland all the time trying to take a left. We know the intersection's challenged. We've talked about some of the things, the additional homes going in at Sawmill, up at Avalon, and so this problem is only going to get worse if we continue to let it happen. At some point, there's going to be the cost of a signal is going to have to go in there. I don't know when, but some of us talked about that signal being there early on when they were doing the roadway improvements. I actually kind of liked it, even though I didn't like it when I first saw it. It made it a heck of a lot easier to pull out. Adequacy of utilities. The prior finding was the Board of Health was concerned about underground tanks and the level of groundwater. This was one of the aspects that was cited. I don't know what those numbers are. We've talked about it, but this was a specific issue that was talked about. Groundwater levels haven't changed. The site's going to need to be elevated at some point. We don't know what that would be. The issue may be, is the site elevation at the street level enough to obstruct view from a car pulling out trying to look left? If it's 3 feet and there's a retaining wall there, it's gonna take you to the intersection, you're not gonna be able to see like you can now through the site. The neighborhood character, we've talked about that. Property abutted on 3 sides by residential zones, 3 sides. The prior ZBA finding, requested use would have a negative impact on property and surrounding residential neighborhoods. This was the prior finding by the board in 2019. It's also been discussed, many states consider living within 300 to 500 feet of a gas station to be a health hazard and have enacted zoning restrictions to limit that. Impacts on the environment. Prior finding, no plan to mitigate impacts of noise, light, and sound pollution. I think the plan that was presented tonight, some of that has been mitigated, so I think there's a little progress there. The prior finding, the parcel resides about 1/3 within the aquifer protection area. We've talked a lot about that, so I'm not going to continue to repeat it. As I mentioned earlier, the prohibited use is sale or storage of fuels, not just storage, also the sale. And I don't think at some point we're going to get into where the cash register sits on the plan. I submit to you that the whole parcel, it enables the sale of fuel, and that's a prohibited use, and it should not be allowed. The other aspect of this is, I saw the plans on the grading. I thought everything looked interesting, the way things were graded out, but it's not possible to control all of the groundwater from getting into the aquifer. Tires, rubber absorbs gasoline. Spills happen next to cars on rubber tires. They're dragged through the roadway into the aquifer as the cars are exiting and leaving. There's snow storage located in the aquifer. Trucks come in, they push snow from the fuel side into the snow storage area, rain gardens, driving wind. The propensity for this to go wrong is quite high. This is just an overlay of the plan that you've seen showing the aquifer boundary is highlighted in yellow, showing the exit driveway across the aquifer, the rain garden in the aquifer, the snow storage in the aquifer, and the location of the diesel and storage tanks. Potential fiscal impact, this has also been discussed, but the prior finding, which I wanted everybody to see, gasoline taxes would not contribute to the town's tax base, and that any increase in the property value did not justify granting the special permit. Last slide, what's changed since 2019? Still 2 gas stations located 1.3 miles away, still surrounded by 3 residential zones, still located 1/3 within the aquifer. Sales of stored fuels are prohibited. So traffic increase and the patrons who signed, not necessarily all from Easton. So that's all I have.
Okay. Do any members of the board, Ed, you want to start off?
Did you actually go through like the whole petition thing to determine this?
One of the folks on our team did, yes.
Okay.
We looked up all the addresses.
That was submitted, that we did get a full list with everyone's name and address on it.
Yes.
So that was submitted to the board.
Yeah, active information.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, folks that were on our team supporting, some of these issues went through every address that was submitted by the petitioners that were posted on the website. So ran down every address. So and that was the number we came up with. May have changed, but we looked at an early version.
That was my only question,
All right.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Ron?
I really don't have anything to add. The only thing, I thought there were 3 gas stations at 5 corners, and I know one is stopped just to do repairs.
Correct. There were 3 looking at each other.
Yeah.
When you went there, you kind of said, "All right, where's the cheapest one?" But yeah, now one is just selling and repairing.
They closed.
Yes.
What's the zoning bylaw that you keep citing about the sale? I'm trying to look that one up.
Sure, I think I have the
It's gonna-
reference
it's gonna
here.
be the
It's
table of
Easton
use.
zoning bylaws, section 9.1.3. It talks about prohibited uses in an aquifer zone, and the number 1 prohibited use of property in an aquifer zone is sale or storage of fuels. There's a whole list of other things in there too, but I don't have a copy of it with me, but it is section 9.1.3.
you have anything else?
No, that's all. I want to read that.
Do you want to take a minute? We
When
can come back to you.
I'd kind of like to ask Ms. Correa her response to that.
I mean,
As appropriate.
no, as a member of the board, you can ask the council, so.
Oh, it says it's under the Aquifer Protection Overlay District section, prohibited uses within a Aquifer Protection Overlay District. Sales or storage of fuels.
So
it's just the interpretation of.
Well, that my question there, or, you know, I was gonna let these guys go, but I'm gonna step in now because I can. Sale or storage in the aquifer protection zone, we could say literally the tanks and the pumps are not, and the cash registers aren't because the building isn't in the aquifer protection zone. So, you know, and this is a comment I just wanted to make about the 6, you were saying, you know, specific items that make up a special permit, and I would say that not only are they not specific, I would say they're verbosely vague, because you could look at any of them and you know, that becomes a job of the board to read through these and say, what do these really mean? You know, when it says a positive economic impact, what is the definition of a positive economic impact? I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's something that we have to figure out. So,
No, I agree. I was merely trying to show what past board members had decided and
I was on those.
categories.
Okay.
Yes.
John?
Just the point that you raised about snow storage.
Mhm.
Is it your concern that this is snowstorm, they have to plow the snow into this storage area, that there are going to be contaminants within the snow?
Sure.
That are going to be contained within that?
Snow sits on top of the asphalt. The asphalt is located in the roadways, and the roadways are contaminated by tires that drag gasoline over the asphalt. It's all absorbed. Same with the rain.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if we may,
So I think his comment may also come from the same Aquifer Protection Overlay District on the prohibited uses. It says no dumping of snow from outside the district to within the district. So we have one small snow storage area shown at the back of the site near the rain garden. Ideally, that would accept the snow removal from that back site, and there's additional snow storage at the front of the site. I mean, typically, if we have to remove it on our plans from the back of the site and show all snow storage up front, that's not a big deal to do at planning board.
Yeah, because that's unrealistic. It's a
mean-
snowplow operator is going to be like, oop, there's a line.
Yeah, we try to put them at ideal spots where the plow can direct it straight in, and they're not making funky turns, and there's enough snow storage in each portion of the site.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
and also, Mr. Chairman, in regards to how when you opened up the meeting, you received comments from the building inspector. If the building inspector thought that this was a prohibited use, I am sure that he would have written a letter or made some type of an email to this board saying it's a prohibited use and you should not have granted a special permit.
I'm not positive about that.
Okay, well, he is the zoning enforcement officer, correct?
Sure.
So he's in charge of the zoning bylaws and what's prohibited and what's not prohibited, because he signs off on these building permits. So if we submitted a building permit application to him for this use, he would have said, okay, you need a special permit from the zoning board, you need to go to planning board and conservation commission, and I'm pretty sure that's what we discussed during our preliminary meetings about this project with these department heads. So he would have said to us at that point in time, if it was a prohibited use, you can't go any further than this. It's done.
Well, I mean, your assumption is that the zoning enforcement officer gets every zoning enforcement correct, and that's an incorrect statement.
Okay.
So that's why we're all here doing our jobs.
Understood.
So, okay, John?
No, and there's another, so just to follow up, there is another snow storage area on the plans,
Correct. Yes, it's over near the front, somewhere in this zone.
All right, thank you, that's all
Well, there's one on the other side of the entrance, too.
yeah, that's all I wanted to ask.
Okay.
I just want to make a comment because there've been a number of comments from the members of the community as far as crosswalks, pedestrian safety. I just want to show that that's not something in the purview of this board. That's typically something that is awful as it is. generally accidents have to happen, and they look at it as accidents per whatever metric, and if there's a certain number of accidents per metric. So unfortunately, it seems like people have to get hurt before the state guidelines step in. I'm sure you could petition the State Highway Board, or whatever the heck they're called, Department of Transportation, whatever, to request a study to investigate putting a crosswalk in, and with the current crosswalk guidelines, with the signs and the flashers and all that sort of stuff. I would agree, especially with the increased traffic from Avalon, foot traffic, because you see foot traffic coming across the intersection all the time. Why there isn't one, crossing Highland and 123, I don't know. So I just wanted to make sure because if it keeps coming up, like that's beyond our purview. Okay. Anything else?
I'm all set.
All right, do we have any questions about this specific presentation from the community?
I guess I have a question. Did this board receive all of our documents and have a chance to read them?
Yes, the board received all of your documents, yes.
Yep. That's correct.
I mean, I read them, I can assume that.
Fine, thank you.
Yes. All right, that wasn't a waving hand in the background. All right, sir.
I do have one comment.
Oh, yeah, please, sir. Make sure you announce yourself, address, so we can get it properly recorded.
The exact boundary.
Name.
River Health, 100 Highland Street.
Thank you.
The actual boundary of the aquifer is kind of a moot point, because studies have proven from the main DPW that underground spills can travel a vertical distance of 300 feet, okay? So it's not just the boundary, it's 300 feet beyond the boundary if you want to be safe.
In the direction of water flow.
Doesn't
It's
matter.
not going to
It can
go up.
in any direction 300
Okay.
feet.
I haven't seen the study, so.
It's in my paper.
Well, I mean, I read through that, but I didn't read that specific study. Okay.
It's footnoted and there's a link to it.
I got it. Okay. Anything else? All right. Who's next?
I'll go next. Alan, can you pull my hand? Can you show him? Because I'm going to stand here. He's going to be my side.
Oh, okay.
Is that it?
Is that okay?
Yeah, if you can find it.
Is that very policy or regulation?
No, that's,
Can you find it?
Is that it?
It's not it, no.
it's the other one.
Of course. This one?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Brian McCann, 15 Heidi Road, Southeastern, and I represent 124 folks who have come to object to this proposal. So I've worked in healthcare for about 40 plus years. In healthcare, two of our mantras are to screen and diagnose cancers and to treat cancers. My entire presentation tonight is pretty much about that. I didn't use paid local consultants. I used three little entities called the CDC, National Institutes of Cancer, and the EPA. I think we're all well versed in them, and I'm not trying to take up my 10 minutes of time. But those folks are pretty potent when it comes to cancer risks and health issues. And as the gentleman in the blue coat pointed out, there are 2 gas stations sitting in aquifer areas. To add a third doesn't cure those. Your predecessors, shame on them for even approving those. Nonetheless, they're there. Let's work to eradicate them. But that doesn't mean we should add another one. Next slide, Alan. So to take a word you used, Mr. Cook, this stuff here, benzene, that's bad shit. It really is. It's 20 of the most widely chemicals in the entire United States. It's an additive to every grade of gasoline, bar none. It causes cancer. You betcha it does. Lymphomas, multiple myelomas, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's documented. That's real world science. And, you know, we have to look at our residents who are vulnerable. That vulnerability looks at almost every type of citizen. Children, pregnant women, older individuals, those who are immunocompromised. I think the only people that left out are young men and women, of course, who aren't pregnant. Next slide, Alan. You know, can we avoid them? The simple answer, so I teach at Stonehill College. When I tell students that I've bolded something, I've italicized it, or I've underlined it, it's pretty damn important. And so if you look at the fourth bullet down, pump gas carefully. That's the guidance by the Center for Disease Control. That's pretty bad stuff. Actually, my home has something in common with part of this fueling station. I have 16,000 gallons of water in the ground, called a swimming pool. And I had to jump through hoops because I'm in the ACEC. I can get that all over my body. I can get it in my nostrils. I can get it in my mouth and in my eyes. And guess what? I dry off. I wouldn't want to bathe in benzenes. And the gentleman in the gray coat, he told a pretty important part of benzene's story for me. That we have enhanced capability to capture the vapors, because it is bad stuff. It causes cancers. I wouldn't want that near me, and I wouldn't want it near my neighbors. It's also part of a group called BTEX. It's for toxins. The text part are just toxins. The benzene, that is a direct link to cancer. If we think it's not going to spill, if we think it's not going to get on the ground, that's naive. We've got minimum wage workers working in a convenience store, the alarm goes off. Oh shit, what do I do now? Who do I call? That's naive. If you want to worry about all the protection systems in the world, humans are a single point of error. Ask Boeing and Alaskan Airlines. What about human error? That has a huge impact on us. Not only is it a carcinogen, it's a mutagen, which allows cells to mutate so they form cancers. Next slide, Alan. It gets in the air, it gets in the water. We are naive if we think of benzene in the ground suddenly notifies, oh, this is the aquifer area. I have to stop here. In reality, your counterparts in Norton and Mansfield should have been at this meeting because it impacts their aquifer as well. Horrific. Fuel spills. It was mentioned earlier, 1.6. It's about 1 million gallons of water is contaminated by 1 gallon of gasoline. And the average fueling station has 100 gallons of spills, whether it's a direct spill, whether it's a tanker issue, whether it's drops, whether it's the lughead who puts his gas cap in and it overfills. 100 gallons. Dispute the government. Next slide, Alan. So when we look at this gas station, we need to look at needs versus wants. And I've got 2 examples of needs. So the town of Easton is building a municipal facility for DPW, police, and fire. Because as it was identified earlier, NFPA, National Fire Protection Association, has a response time. And that response time to get to your house should it be on fire or your loved one be stricken with an illness be no greater than 5 minutes and 20 seconds, 90% of the time. If you've ever done CPR, 5 minutes is an eternity. That's a need. We need to protect our citizens. Unfortunately, the town built 3 stations that aren't aligned and don't work. So we don't hit that timeline. Another one is the Blanche Ames School. We have 3 aging elementary schools, all needing massive infusions of capital to bring them up to grade. It didn't make sense. Build 1 new one, consolidate, sell the properties. Those are needs. Wants? A new fueling station in an aquifer area when there are 2 already 1.3 miles away. The gentleman in the green shirt, and I'm appreciative that he's interested in my economics. There are 8 gas stations. I would have done my homework if I were him. 8 stations in town. And if I go to Luke Oil on Washington Street, it's 40 cents less than Old Town. And that's where I fill up. But I'm very careful how I fill up because I don't want things on. Next slide. Issues to consider. The risk of carcinogens. They're going to get in the air. They're going to get in the water. Human error is always at play. Part of the property, a third, is in the ACEC. There's no disputing that. Increased volume of vehicular traffic. I don't buy the traffic study. I don't buy averages. Averages don't always work. The inability of tanker trucks to properly get in and out. Additional responses by the Easton Fire Department was mentioned. Not all were for hazardous spills at gas stations. That's correct. One was for an aerosol factory in the Easton Industrial Park. The rest were for gas stations. Potential Title V issues. I'm interested in the slope of that land in the back. How you're going to get 3 feet above the ground, but where that back area is going to slope toward 123. That's a pretty, I probably could ski on that. Increased cancer risks. And we've already got our need met. It's wonderful they want to take care of our part of town. But the bottom line is that's already being met. Next slide, Alan. I pulled this from the town. If you look at all the white here, that's all residential. And there's that real blue right there. And there's what looks like a picket fence going through a third of that. That's the aquifer. We just dealt with forever chemicals in our water. For 2.5 years, I had to go buy bottled water. I don't want to go through that again. We have a moral obligation to protect the neighborhood and the aquifer. And again, underground waterways do not abide by property or delineation. They flow. And it was pointed out, 3 signs of this are residential. This is not 5 corners. There are homes on 3. It's only 4 sides. I'm sure if the animals were considered abutters on the land that's forested by the town or by the Easton Savings Bank, they might have a beef as well. Next slide, Alan. It's a build slide, so if you'll hit it again. Heidi Road. Next slide. A mere 1,000 feet. As the crow flies, about 650. Next slide. This grouping of 17 homes has been affected. Next slide. 8 incidences of cancer, leading to 2 deaths. I actually left one off. It's 9, leading to 2 deaths. Next slide. Do we really need a fueling station that bad? That we want to risk putting carcinogens in our environment? In an area where we don't have a fueling shortage? I'm passionate about a few things. Family, religion, and cancer. I'm one of those 8. I have a vested interest in this.
All right. Thank you. All right. Any questions? Well, actually, we'll come to the board. Any members? Ed, do you have any questions?
Nope.
Ron? No?
No, thank you.
I do not.
Okay. Appreciate it. It was a good presentation. Thank you. Any questions from the public about this specific presentation?
Can I just make a quick comment to it? So, just in regards to the words, Mr. Chairman, first off, gas station employees aren't just low-wage employees that are uneducated, you know, and I heard the comment in there, like, you know, what's going to happen when all of a sudden something goes off, you know, they're just going to sit there acting like they don't have a clue. It's really not the case. It's changed quite a bit in the wages and stuff, really improving that. It's added to communities having those types of positions out there because it gives people opportunities. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, we keep talking about these cancers and all these things, but let's just be honest here. We walk around with cell phones in our pocket. We walk them up against our ears. But there's been plenty of studies that have come out and said, oh, all of these things can cause cancers. Power lines, living by power lines, they say, can cause cancers. But what do? We take steps to try to mitigate some of this, try to like figure out ways to work around it. You know, they've taken a lot of precautions here to do all of that, to try to work around these potential problems, and so that you don't have it going out there. So, you know, I just want, you know, we deal with these things all the time. You know, it's just that the way that we try to answer them and, you know, react to it just needs to be handled differently sometimes.
Mr. Chairman, one rebuttal?
Go ahead.
So if the record reflects, and I believe this is recorded, I never referred to them as uneducated. I said they were minimum wage, and they're gonna be challenged at what to do when an alarm goes off. And I do appreciate the gentleman in the green shirt supporting me, and that around power lines, we do mitigate. And mitigation is not putting a cancer risk in an aquifer area. Whether a third of it's in the aquifer or 2/3 is in the aquifer. The bottom line, underground, underwater, it flows in all directions. And the fact that all the other boards either approved it or said no impact, pox on their homes. That's terrible. Where's the Department of Health in this? Where's the planning board? There's not a need for this. This is bad planning from the get-go. And everybody's afraid to say that. But that's what this is. Bad planning from the get-go.
Ms. Carrera?
The planning board did submit positive recommendations for this case. The employees that respond to alarms are trained to respond to those alarms. And I just have a question. I'm confused about the presentation in the last slide. Are we saying that the cancer in that neighborhood was caused by gas stations?
No, we're saying we don't need more.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I
gas
don't- I
station
don't-
Whoa. Let's tone it down a little
May I
bit.
address
Yeah,
that
no, I mean, it was, in general, I didn't see where it had a tie-in to this specific, I think it was making a generalized. It wasn't saying that it's from gas, but it's saying the incidence of cancer within the area. That's all, yes.
May I just follow up on that comment?
Well, no, that it's a question. We're not talking directly to Ms. Carrera. If you have a question about the presentation,
Well, I guess my question to you is, would you know whether the planning board, I can't, because I'll be manipulating, but.
you
Can I
can't
just
manipulate
say-
me. You
but
could
I wanna
try.
say- I just want to say, we submitted our document
Mhm.
to Ms. Danielson, and we heard from a planning and zoning board member, they never received it.
Mhm.
They never got to hear what we had to say. We didn't realize that that meeting was taking place, we didn't see the agenda, of course, we don't get notified of that. We realized the chain of command in this whole process. But the fact is, I watched the planning and zoning board meeting, and the person that was ahead of us tonight on this lovely white duplex that they want to build, there was about 15 or 20-minute discussion of that. It was like a 3-minute discussion on the planning and zoning board's behalf of whether they were going to put gasoline in the ground. And it frustrates the heck out of me that we did all this work and the planning and zoning board never actually read what we wrote.
Mr. Chairman, a point of order, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
First off, if I may, the meeting with the planning board was not a public hearing. It was normally what happens when an application is submitted to the town, to this board, that all of the other departments and other boards get a chance to chime in. At the beginning of this meeting, you read some of those comments, negative, positive, do this, do that, blah, blah, so on and so forth, correct? Okay, so that was Stephanie's working with the planning board members to let them know of this application. And I'd be very surprised, I've known Stephanie for a very long time, I would be very surprised if she was remiss in sending that information to the members, knowing that they were going to discuss whether to favorably send a letter to you or negatively send a letter to you. So I've known her for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to speculate on what other boards are doing because I have no control over that.
But we still have to go there. That's where.
Correct.
Where the peer review will happen, the
Right.
safety issues will happen, will be discussed, the grading will be discussed.
So typically this is step
No, I
one.
understand the procedure perfectly well.
Okay.
And it would surprise me as well if she did that.
All right.
I'm not making an accusation.
Okay. All right.
But I was shocked that it
Yeah.
never came up.
I have a
All right.
question.
Yes. So name, address.
Diane Hart, 2 Michael Drive. When do the abutters get their notice of what's being built?
When we, if I may, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman,
go ahead.
When we file with the planning board and the conservation commission, all the abutters get notified again.
Correct.
Like what, a week before or?
No. So by open meeting law, there has to be notice. So what ends up happening is the town tells them who the abutters are. They have to submit payment, and the town mails it out. Is that correct? Or do you?
Creates the abutter list, the
Okay.
town mails it out.
Okay.
But certain applications are, public hearings are notified, the site plan application would not be.
But the Conservation Commission?
Conservation
they would be
Commission,
notified.
right.
Absolutely.
But my question is, how much notice do they get? 2 weeks.
Well, it has to be at least 2 weeks.
All right, 2
Yeah,
weeks.
that's
So
minimum.
they're getting 2 weeks' notice. My question is, they're only getting 2 weeks' notice to do any homework on this.
Mhm.
And they're coming all prepared. I don't understand how we get to that.
That, I mean, you'd have to complain to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts about their open meeting laws.
Same thing, okay.
Yeah.
And if I may, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman.
Yeah.
If it was granted here, and we had to go to the planning board and the Conservation Commission, I am sure we would be in front of them for a few months.
Mhm.
This isn't going to be,
Right.
One day we're in and we're getting approval and the abutters don't get a chance to review and discuss and have their time to present and discuss what we've put together. That's what that process is about. And like you're doing tonight, Mr. Chairman, you're allowing the abutters to express their concerns and their comments, whether good or negative, and that's the same process that will happen at the planning board level and the Conservation Commission level.
Correct.
I have one more question.
All right.
So
Fire away.
the question is, would the petitioners go ahead and improve their property if the gas station is not approved?
I mean, that's not up for me to say, and they don't even have to
No,
answer that
I'm
question.
looking for an answer.
They don't need to answer that question. I'm sure council would say not to answer the question. So.
Right, they don't, but, the adage goes, you have no better way to judge the future than by the past. I was gonna come here tonight, call it a hovel, and I realized that might be a little harsh. That property is in such horrific condition.
Mhm.
There are 3 ginormous craters.
Well,
with
I mean,
cones in
so,
them.
but that has,
There's an
all right,
entire
so hold on a second. I'm in charge, so when I say stop, stop, all right? We're not here to discuss the condition of their property as it sits now. We're here to discuss the plan that's before us. So if you're not happy with their business and how it appears, don't frequent it. I don't know what else to say, but we're not here to evaluate the current business, and this board has no purview over, you need to put a new driveway in, that's beyond our scope, and we're not going to talk about it because it has nothing to do with what's in front of us, okay? Thank you. Sir.
So, Dan Fitzpatrick, 10 Heidi Road. I have a question for Mr. McKenna.
Nope, it's to me.
Okay, so my question is, as the father of 3 small children, ages 11, 9, and 6, if inputting this gas station at the corner will increase the risk to my children's long-term health for things like cancer, given the presentation and his expertise. Because I think we're trying to evaluate risk versus reward here, and I'd like to understand more about that risk.
Well,
Sounds
man,
like it would.
I think that's something you need to take, offline outside, because that's not really the point of what we're doing here. We're taking it. It's not, because you're asking specifically a question like, are my kids at risk? Honestly,
We live in the neighborhood. We're 1,000 yards away.
I understand you're 1,000 yards away, and there are other gas stations in town where people are close by as well. I'm not putting any down. I'm not putting down any of your concerns. We're trying to follow the zoning bylaws. We've heard the concerns about the benzene. As far as the rest of it, obviously we got to take all that stuff into consideration. As someone who is an expert in that, we heard what he said. It was a very insightful presentation. I think for as far as we have everything we need at this point.
Understand? I just thought it would maybe be.
And I have 3 kids who grew up in town too. I get it, and correct.
Numbers and things like that.
And there are senior citizens that live in the area, exactly. And we could break it down to individual impact by age, by gender, by ethnicity, by religion. It's not going to change anything. Okay. And that's part. Everybody has made it well known that it's a concern, and it's something we have to take into consideration, and we certainly appreciate everyone bringing that up. Sir.
I think it is somewhat pertinent, give me a bit of latitude here. We wouldn't be talking about this if this were in an area of Easton that doesn't sit on aquifer. That's science.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the biomedical model here in America. We trust science. So this is a moot point if it's somewhere else, doesn't sit on a drinking supply,
Sure.
or a water aquifer that feeds a drinking supply. I can't impress that enough. That is pertinent. Spills do happen.
And it was covered in your presentation. To
But I
continue,
just wanted
to continue laboring on it
some
is
background
not
color
adding
commentary
additional.
On a valid question. It was asked of you, Mr. Chairman.
I understand, and your presentation covered it, and we don't need to belabor the point further. That's all. Sir,
You're probably going to get to this, but...
remember, name, address.
Gregory Hart, 2 Michael Drive.
Thank you.
37 years. This guy here said something about if you grant the permit, then they go to the zoning board, the
Planning board, there's a process.
among other boards.
Sure.
Okay. If you grant the permit. If you don't grant the permit, what are their options going forward?
So they got a couple options. They can say, oh, it didn't work, or council could sit with their clients and say, well, we think the town didn't apply the zoning bylaws correctly, and they can pursue litigation in land court.
So that they would pursue that against the town, or
As the zoning board, as representatives of the town. Wouldn't be the first time, won't be the last.
All right. And I think someone may have asked this, when is the decision forthcoming from your board?
We don't know. We may make a decision tonight. We have discussions. We may have additional questions for council, and they may want. We may ask them if they want us to continue the decision, or if they want us to continue to another date to get additional to answers to any additional questions we may have.
Okay, so there could be another meeting like this?
We would probably put it in a bigger room.
Mr. Chairman, as a point of order, it is our hope that you would grant with some conditions, but also when we get to the planning board and conservation commission, they also have the chance and to put in writing as part of their decisions certain things. Protection of the resource areas, protection of stormwater and snow, and operation and maintenance, signs, prohibiting the truck traffic, and those kinds of things. Those are all things that we're anticipating, if we get past this, that those other boards, and we will work with those other boards, and Stephanie and Jennifer, to make sure that the order of conditions, the decision coming out of the planning board, has those special conditions that are effectively protecting the residents and the sensitive resource areas that are in and around the site. We just need the chance to do that.
Understand. Sir?
Yes, Robert White, 618 Foundry Street. I don't know if people in this room know this, but if you want to find a toxic site in Easton, just go down to 138 on the intersection of 138 and 106. At that intersection, there's businesses on 3 corners. One corner is empty. It's an empty lot because it's contaminated soil. How did it get contaminated? It was from a gas station. Now, I'm sure when that gas station was constructed decades ago, they followed all the current rules on the book, all the recommendations. It was cutting edge technology back then. So what happened? So I just want to make that point. We don't want that happening on the corner of Island and Foundry. Thank you.
Ma'am?
I feel so old. Anyways, I'm Verna Ann Powell-Chininsky, 104 Highland Street. I'm one scientist, and I was the last one to speak within the presentation, but I don't want to be redundant. So a lot of things I was going to say was said already, but simply I do want to say that the fact that there's just a possibility, a strong possibility that contamination can occur. And the response time, 24 hours, that's going to seep into the water supply, and we're going to drink it. And that's going to cost millions and millions of dollars to clean up, and that's going to be taxed on the taxpayers. And so I really strongly feel, especially I'm a biochemist, pharmacologist, and I feel that the pros and cons, I mean, it's obvious that it's just not the right thing to do to build a gas station. Thank you.
Great. All right, then we have one more okay. There was, oh, okay. Frank. Okay. Any other comments on this presentation? So if not, then anybody on the board have any additional questions? No? All right, I will.
We would be asking for a continuance if the board is willing to grant one. We do have some areas that we want to look at, discuss. It's been a lot of discussions and I have a lot of questions that I know I'd still like to address too.
Okay.
It would be within the board's discretion to grant continuance.
Yeah, we'd need I don't have a problem in having so what is the availability for the next meeting?
Well, I found out that Rockingham would be available on a Monday, which is Monday, May 6th, the day before. It's not our Tuesday, the 7th.
And that would be in?
May 6th.
Yeah, no, but where?
Frothingham.
Frothingham. Ugh, we can't use the high school?
I can keep looking, but we can.
The only reason is Frothingham, because the audio is terrible, the screen's terrible.
I didn't look into high school yet.
Okay.
You could continue to.
But we have to have a date and time certain. Then Frothingham it is. Let me just make sure.
Could you vote on this if you wanted to right now?
That they're asking for continuance, we can grant them a continuance or not. They've asked based on questions and feedback that they'd like to go and adjust things. We could certainly have the right to allow them to do that, or we can say, no, tough cookies. But, generally what we do is, as a board, just so folks understand, is we want to make sure petitioners, you could be a petitioner someday, and there could be something that you're trying to get pushed through that may not be something that your abutters want. And we want to make sure that regardless of the abutter and the applicant and the project, that we give everybody ample opportunity to make their case to the board. And so typically if someone's asking for a continuance and council's asking for a continuance, that generally it's our practice to give them the opportunity to try and make adjustments to their presentation, address any concerns that have come up. Will it change the board's decision? Well, we don't know, but they're asking for the opportunity to make adjustments and amendments, and generally it's our practice to allow them to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
When they said, I forget who said, that the area in your yard might not be a wetland or whatever.
Well, that's something the
But they kept saying that their person. Would the town get their own person to check it?
So typically what would happen is if there's something that we had a question on, what we'll do is sometimes we'll talk to town council, say, hey, we have some questions about interpretation of this. What does this law really mean? This came up. How should we address it to make sure, one, we're protecting the town, two, protecting the town against liability from making poor decisions, protect the town against liability from applicants choosing to file a suit in land court because there's a cost associated with that. We want to make sure we're buttoning all that stuff up to the best of our ability. So one of the questions they may have when they come back is maybe that's something they're addressing specifically. I'm winking if you missed it. But that may be something they address specifically, and then we may look at it and go, well, we're not really sure what this means. We want to have a professional representing the town go ahead and do that. We've done that with traffic studies, et cetera, in the past. So, but that's a good question.
You might want to take a look at that while we're discussing the
Draft agenda. I'm suggesting it continue to 7 p.m.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It was nice you already had this done. It doesn't say you're awesome at your job.
Mr. Chairman, this is a point of recognition. We'll all be back then.
Oh, no, I'm sure. But, yeah.
And the numbers will be legion.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay, so what we're looking at, do you want to check your calendar? So we're looking at.
Except it's a Monday.
Right. What is this? To change. All right, so we're looking at Monday, May 6th, 7 p.m. for continuance of 95 Highland Street. What's the matter?
Just something else, I do the first Monday of the month.
Okay, that's a problem. Well, yeah, so,
Yeah.
and we don't have any other alternates. But we have, well, so we would have 4. And if we had a decision, all 4 would have to vote. Are you okay with that?
We would rather have 4. And
You'd
Jean could do a mulligan.
What's that?
Jean
She could.
could do a mulligan.
Okay. All right. So, what? Someone have a question about what a mullen?
Could you just clarify, so I can't hear you over here?
Yeah. So what we're going through right now is Mr. Handberger isn't available on Monday, May 6th. With a 5-person board, you can have someone who disagrees, or have one person who agrees and the rest disagree, and you have enough for a quorum for a vote. If we only have 4 members present, all 4 need to vote for. In this case, if the applicant wants to make sure they're having a fair shot, all 4 would have to agree. And so that's what typically when we're trying to figure out a continuance, we want to make sure we're giving an applicant fair shot. That's why I'm asking council, are you okay if there's only 4 here? And council's saying no, she would rather have a full board, which means we would move to June.
Or you come back to this room on a Monday.
Or we come back to this room on a Monday and just this.
And on Tuesday.
Oh, no, Tuesday. Oh, right, if we're just going to do this room.
Right, the date that's on our schedule.
Well, I mean, we've already been forewarned that there'll be more people.
It's not a warning, it just says obligation.
No, it wasn't, I said forewarned.
Yeah. And
got it.
again, it's not kind of feel that people are out there.
Well,
can't
I
hear
mean,
anything.
well, so hold on. So we've done it in the past, we could set up audio upstairs,
Rooms have changed.
Oh, they've changed. Okay, so we can't do that anymore. Okay.
You can't do it at the high school on a Tuesday?
Well, the problem is, so the challenge is, when we do a continuance, it's required by law that we have to have a date and time certain. So we can't sit here and go, oh, we're going to continue at some point.
Right.
So we have to give applicant a date and time. So in order to have a full board, it would have to be on May 7th, and the only room we know we have available is this one, for certain.
For certain.
And we have to have certainty. Sir.
Point of information, Barry Grunin, 1 Michael Drive. So if you continue the hearing until another date, how is the presentations? We already have a presentation tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Is this only for new information, or how does that work?
Right. So typically, if they're going to be making changes, they're going to be presenting on what their changes are, because what they presented is already part of the record. So they're not going to do a full presentation all over again.
And the same for us, we don't have to re-present.
Correct, because it's already been presented. It's already part of the record.
Just new information.
Right. Ma'am.
Oh, thank you. Ma'am, oh my God. I'm a doctor.
Yeah. Doctor, please.
Thank you. But seriously, so once they come back with their research, will we be able to see that research before the continuance hearing occurs?
Right. So great question. So applicant will, very typically, they send us a packet of information in advance. At least I see it, and then it's distributed to the board. It has to be filed up on the permit server, so it'll be on Permit Eyes. So any of their information, it would typically be very odd for them to come up and not have provided the information to the town in advance. So that information provided, it's loaded up on the public server, so you all have access to it. And I'm not going to tell you to call Suzanne and check if it's there, because she would hate me.
Can you define it in advance? Because if it's a day before, that gives us little time. It's a fire drill then.
Correct. I mean, they gotta have the time to put their stuff together. And certainly, if you have concerns, then we could certainly have a continuance so you have the time to review, which we've done plenty of times before. Very, very common in a 40B application where information is presented, and the other side wants to take and say, hey, can we have the opportunity to look at this? then we would obviously give them the opportunity to look at that. Because I don't know, I've known most of the members of the board for a while. I don't think any of us are jerks. So, good. All right. So we're all in agreement on that, sir.
Will the board get any legal advice on the quote-unquote, what the interpretation of sale and storage means?
Part of this is I'll be communicating with Suzanne, and I'll probably be in touch with town council for guidance on that. Yeah. And if need be, town council would be present to be able to answer questions. So, but that'd be something that Suzanne and I will discuss. Anything else, ma'am?
Karen, 614 Foundry. I guess I'm a little confused as to what the continuance is for. Do they not need to state to you what additional items they're looking
No,
into,
they.
like we were here?
No, they don't. They say, you know, we heard there were a number of concerns. We'd like the opportunity to address them. It's totally at the request of applicant that they can ask for more time.
Okay, so then could we formally request that we have time to review it?
There's no need to formally request. When they come back to present, they have to provide the information to the town in advance. If there are enough questions from members who either oppose or for or against that want the opportunity to review, certainly can ask for continuance as well to be able to review.
Okay, but how would?
Members of the town just say, you know, we would like, you know, there's a lot of information here. We would like the opportunity to go through it, maybe bring in our own experts and be able to come back. And then we would have the opportunity to set a new date. Sir?
Are you receptive to proposed permanent conditions?
We can do anything we want.
But I mean, would you invite us from the public?
We can do anything we want.
Okay.
That's what I will tell you.
Mr. Chairman,
sir,
there were a couple of things that I wrote down. I remember that the board specifically asked for. One was the list of the homeowners in the 300-foot area. The other one was you asked the traffic engineer to front load his study with the proposed developments that have been recently granted here. And then there's been other questions that were in the slide that really need to be the abutters presented, that we do need time to answer those questions.
Correct.
And to come up with the facts and do the fact checking on certain things. So those are the reasons why we're asking for that continuance.
Oh, I understand that.
For us. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that you were asked us to provide information and we need time to do that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I would defer to my colleague, who is a PhD. I don't think a filter exists to extract things from water.
Okay. No.
So that it's safely potable.
Okay, so it looks like go ahead, John.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, do we need to just keep the May 7 date? I mean, we'll just...
No, that's what we're going to keep the May 7th. So that's what I was just going to wrap up with.
Okay.
So right now, Tuesday, May 7th, 7 p.m. for continuance on this. And council, yes.
Does that mean the full board will be here, Mr. Chairman?
The full board will be here, yes. As required by open meeting law, yes.
Ryan, I think we need to vote, so I'll make a motion to
continue.
To continue until May 7 at 7 p.m.
Yep. So we have a motion to continue May 7th at 7 p.m.
Seconded.
Seconded by Ed. Any discussion? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor? That is a 5-0.
That's a Tuesday.
We can't change it. So
Stuck with it now.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Okay, wait.
Oh, no, you're good. You were fantastic. Oh, you did a great job. That was not easy to keep everybody controlled, answer everybody's
I'm up
questions.
at 5 o'clock every morning.
Actually, hold on.
I
I don't. You guys do.
Thanks. Impressed. Surprised me.
Yeah, sure. You bet.
That's on that.
Oh, you didn't
That
put
was from the first.
you didn't put the screen down in that one.
How was your trip?
It was fun. I mean, it was.
Thank you for your time this evening. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It was mid 80s,
Mid-80s.
upper 80s
Golfing or
actually.
something? Your son? You golfing or?
No, I gave up golfing. I hate this. Oh my! I threw my clubs out.
What brought you to
Friend built a house in